The rain battered the windshield of Dr. Evelyn Harrow's sedan, each drop a drumbeat against the quiet of the Vermont night. She squinted through the fog. The road to Morningside Academy, twisting like a snake through endless fields of frost. The dashboard clock glowed 4:37 a.m., its green light casting shadows across her tired face. She'd driven 6 hours for Boston, lured by a job offer that promised prestige and purpose. Speech therapist for mute children at a renowned private school. But as the Gothic spires of Morningside pierced the horizon, black against the gray dawn, a chill settled in her bones. The building looked less like a school and more like a mausoleum, its windows dark, its stone walls swallowing the light. Evelyn's fingers tightened on the wheel. She'd read about Morningside's reputation, elite, exclusive, a haven for children who couldn't speak. Yet the headmaster's voice on the phone, smooth as polished glass, had carried an edge she couldn't place. Now, as she approached the iron gates, she wondered what she'd signed up for. Welcome to The Silent Children, a sci-fi horror audiobook narrated by Nightfall, where silence hides a truth too terrifying to speak. I'm Nightfall, your guide through this chilling tale. And tonight, we begin a journey into a school where the quiet screams louder than any voice. If you love suspense that crawls under your skin, hit that subscribe button and join our community of horror fans. Let's dive into Chapter 1, The Unspeaking Welcome. Evelyn pulled into the gravel courtyard, her car's engine sputtering to a stop. The gates clanged shut behind her, the sound echoing like a cell door. She stepped out, her boots crunching on the wet stone, and pulled her coat tight against the wind. Morningside Academy loomed above, 3 stories of weathered granite, its gargoyles leering from the eaves. A single light flickered in a high window, and for a moment, Evelyn swore she saw a silhouette, small, still, watching. She shook it off, blaming the long drive, and hefted her suitcase toward the entrance. The oak doors, carved with vines and thorns, creaked open before she could knock. A woman stood there, mid-50s, her gray hair pulled into a severe bun. "Dr. Harrow," she said, her smile thin as a blade. "I'm Ms. Varn, the house mistress. Welcome to Morningside." Her voice was clipped, her eyes scanning Evelyn like a machine. Evelyn forced a nod, stepping into a foyer lit by a chandelier that swayed faintly. Though no breeze stirred the air, the interior smelled of wax and damp stone, the kind of scent that clung to old churches or forgotten libraries. Portraits lined the walls, stern-faced men and women in dated suits, their eyes seeming to follow her. Ms. Varn led her down a corridor, her heels clicking in perfect rhythm. "The children are eager to meet you," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "They're unique, congenital mutism, most of them, some from trauma. Your role is to teach them alternative communication, sign language, writing, that sort of thing." Evelyn nodded, though questions gnawed at her. Why hire her so quickly? Why no interview? And why did the air feel heavy, like it was pressing against her skin? They stopped at a classroom door, its window frosted over. "Your quarters are upstairs," Ms. Varn said. "But first, meet one of your students." She pushed the door open, revealing a girl, maybe 10, sitting alone at a desk. The girl's name was Lily, Ms. Varn said, before leaving Evelyn with a warning to mind the schedule. Lily had pale skin, dark hair in twin braids, and eyes that seemed too old for her face. She didn't speak. None of the children did, but her gaze locked onto Evelyn's, sharp and searching. Evelyn smiled, kneeling to her level. "Lily, I'm Dr. Harrow. I'm here to help you communicate." She signed the words, her hands steady from years of practice. Lily didn't respond, but her fingers twitched, tracing a shape in the air, quick, deliberate, gone before Evelyn could decipher it. Then, Lily leaned forward, her breath warm against Evelyn's ear, and whispered something. Not words, not sounds, but a feeling like static crawling through Evelyn's mind. She recoiled, heart pounding. Lily's eyes widened, as if she'd made a mistake, and she bolted from the room, leaving Evelyn alone with the echo of that impossible whisper. Back in the corridor, The chandelier's sway had stopped, but the air felt thicker, charged. Evelyn's pulse raced as she climbed to her quarters, a small room with a narrow bed and a desk. Her window overlooked the courtyard, where the fog had thickened, swallowing her car. She unpacked her bag, trying to shake the unease, but Lily's whisper clung to her like damp cloth. What had the girl done? How had she done it? And why did Evelyn feel like the walls were listening? She sat on the bed, her notebook open, and jotted down what she knew. Elite school, mute children, strange staff, Lily's communication. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. As she wrote, a faint hum vibrated through the floor, low and mechanical, coming from somewhere deep in the building. She pressed her hand to the wall, feeling the pulse, and a single thought gripped her. Morningside wasn't a school. It was something else entirely. This is just the beginning, horror fans. The Silent Children will take you deeper into a mystery where silence is a weapon, and the truth is out of this world. Stick with Eli Nightfall as we unravel the secrets of Morningside Academy. Like, comment, and subscribe to catch every chapter of this sci-fi horror audiobook. What do you think is behind Lily's whisper? Drop your theories below, and let's get ready for Chapter 1, Part 1, where the unspeaking welcome turns into something far more sinister. Chapter 1, The Unspeaking Welcome. The rain lashed against Dr. Evelyn Harrow's windshield, a relentless percussion that drowned out the hum of her sedan's engine. The clock on the dashboard read 4:37 a.m., its sickly green glow illuminating the lines of exhaustion etched into her face. She'd been driving for 6 hours, the endless stretch of Vermont's backroads blurring into a haze of fog and frostbitten fields. Morningside Academy, her destination, was a name that carried weight, prestigious, exclusive, a haven for mute children who needed specialized care. Evelyn, a speech therapist with a decade of experience, had jumped at the job offer, seduced by its generous salary and the chance to make a difference. But as the Gothic spires of the school pierced the horizon, black against the gray dawn, a prickle of unease coiled in her chest. The building loomed like a fortress, its stone walls swallowing the light, its windows dark and unyielding. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel, her knuckles whitening. The headmaster's voice from their brief phone call echoed in her mind, smooth, measured, but with an edge that felt like a warning. This was no ordinary school, and Evelyn was beginning to suspect she'd been lured here under false pretenses. She pulled into the gravel courtyard, her tires crunching against the wet stone as the engine sputtered to a stop. The iron gates clanged shut behind her, the sound reverberating like a prison door slamming. Evelyn stepped out, her boots sinking slightly into the sodden ground, and pulled her coat tight against the biting wind. Morningside Academy towered above, 3 stories of weathered granite, its gargoyles leering from the eaves like silent sentinels. A single light flickered in a high window, and for a fleeting moment, she swore she saw a silhouette, small, motionless, watching her. She blinked, and it was gone, leaving only the fog and the oppressive weight of the building. Shaking off the chill, she hefted her suitcase and approached the entrance. A pair of oak doors carved with intricate vines and thorns that seemed to writhe in the dim light. Before she could knock, the doors creaked open, revealing a woman in her mid-50s. Her gray hair pulled into a severe bun, her face sharp and unyielding. "Dr. Harrow," the woman said, her smile thin as a razor. "I'm Ms. Varn, the house mistress. Welcome to Morningside." Her voice was clipped, her eyes scanning Evelyn with a cold precision that made her skin crawl. Evelyn forced a nod, stepping into the foyer, where the air smelled of wax and damp stone, like an old church left to rot. A chandelier hung overhead, its crystal swaying faintly though no breeze stirred the room. Portraits lined the walls, stern-faced men and women in dated suits, their gazes seeming to follow her every step. Ms. Varn's heels clicked against the polished floor as she led Evelyn down a corridor, the rhythm unervingly perfect. "The children are eager to meet you," she said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "They're unique, congenital mutism, most of them, some from trauma. Your role is to teach them alternative communication, sign language, writing, that sort of thing. Evelyn nodded, but questions gnawed at her. Why had the hiring process been so rushed? Why no interview? And why did the air feel heavy, like it was pressing against her lungs? They stopped at a classroom door, its window frosted over, obscuring the room beyond. Your quarters are upstairs, Ms. Varnes said, her eyes narrowing slightly. But first, meet one of your students. She pushed the door open, revealing a girl, maybe 10, sitting alone at a desk. The room was stark, its walls bare except for a single chalkboard covered in neat, unreadable symbols. The girl, introduced as Lily, had pale skin, dark hair and twin braids, and eyes that seemed too old for her face. Ms. Varn left with a curt warning to mind the schedule, and Evelyn knelt beside Lily, offering a warm smile. Lily, I'm Dr. Hero. I'm here to help you communicate. She signed the words, her hands steady from years of practice. Lily didn't respond, but her gaze locked onto Evelyn's, sharp and searching. Then, her fingers twitched, tracing a shape in the air, quick, deliberate, gone before Evelyn could make sense of it. Suddenly, Lily leaned forward, her breath warm against Evelyn's ear, and something passed between them. Not words, not sounds, but a sensation like static crawling through Evelyn's mind, sharp and invasive. She recoiled, her heart pounding, the room tilting around her. Lily's eyes widened, as if she'd made a terrible mistake, and she bolted from the room, her footsteps echoing down the corridor. Evelyn sat back on her heels, her breath shallow, trying to process what had just happened. The air in the room felt charged, the chalkboard symbols seeming to pulse in her peripheral vision. She stood, her legs unsteady, and stepped into the corridor where the chandelier's sway had stopped, but the weight of the air pressed harder. The hum she'd noticed earlier, faint and mechanical, vibrated through the floor, coming from somewhere deep within the building. She pressed her hand to the wall, feeling the pulse, and a single thought gripped her. Morningside wasn't school. It was a machine, alive and watching. She hurried to her quarters, a small room on the second floor with a narrow bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the fog-choked courtyard. Her car was barely visible, swallowed by the mist. She unpacked her bag, her hands trembling, and opened her notebook, jotting down what she knew. Elite school, mute children, strange staff, Lily's whisper. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. As she wrote, the hum grew louder, a low thrum that seemed to resonate in her chest. She glanced at the window, where the fog pressed against the glass like a living thing. In the distance, a faint light pulsed, not from the school but from the sky, a single starless point of radiance that flickered and vanished. Evelyn's breath caught. She'd seen that light in her dreams on the drive here, a beacon in a void. Was it real, or was fatigue playing tricks? She closed her notebook, her mind racing. Lily's whisper, the hum, the light, they were connected, pieces of a puzzle she didn't yet understand. But one thing was clear, the children's silence wasn't natural. It was enforced, and Evelyn was determined to find out why. She lay on the bed, the hum lulling her into an uneasy sleep, unaware that the walls of Morningside were listening, their secrets buried deep but stirring, ready to surface. Evelyn awoke with a start, her heart hammering against her ribs. The room was dark, the only light a faint gray seep from the window, where the fog still clung like a shroud. The hum she'd felt earlier was gone, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to pulse in her ears. She sat up, her notebook still open on the desk, the words she'd written: elite school, mute children, strange staff. Lily's whisper, staring back at her like an accusation. The memory of Lily's impossible communication flooded back, that static-like intrusion in her mind, sharp and alien. It hadn't been a sound, not exactly, but it carried intent, a warning she couldn't decipher. Evelyn rubbed her temples, trying to shake the fog of sleep. She'd only meant to rest for a moment, but the clock on the wall read 6:12 a.m. She'd lost nearly 2 hours, and the school day was about to begin. Her first official session with the children was at 7 and MS. Varn's warning about the schedule echoed in her mind. She couldn't afford to be late, not when every moment at Morningside felt like a test. She dressed quickly, pulling on a sweater and slacks. Her movements mechanical as her thoughts churned. The school's Gothic architecture, the staff's cold precision, Lily's eerie presence. It all pointed to something hidden, something wrong. She grabbed her notebook and a small recorder, a habit from her years working with nonverbal patients, and headed downstairs. The corridor was dimly lit, the portraits' eyes glinting in the low light, their expressions more judgmental than before. As she passed the classroom where she'd met Lily, she paused, the frosted window reflecting her own tense face. The chalkboard symbols she'd glimpsed yesterday swam in her memory. Curved lines, sharp angles, nothing like any language she knew. Were they code? A child's doodle? Or was something else entirely? She pushed the thought aside and hurried to the dining hall, where the children and staff would be gathering for breakfast. If she was going to understand Morningside, she needed to observe, to listen, even if the only sound were silence. The dining hall was a cavernous room with vaulted ceilings and long wooden tables, lit by chandeliers that cast flickering shadows. The children, about 30 of them, sat in neat rows, their ages ranging from 6 to 16. They ate in unison, spoons rising and falling with unsettling precision, their eyes fixed on their plates. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one even glanced at their neighbors. Evelyn's stomach twisted. She'd worked with mute children before, but this was different. Their silence wasn't just an absence of sound. It was a presence, heavy and deliberate, as if enforced by an unseen force. The staff, including Ms. Varn and a handful of others in starched uniforms, stood along the walls, their gazes sharp and unblinking. At the head of the room sat Dr. Kessler, the headmaster, a man in his 60s with silver hair and a face carved from stone. He hadn't been there to greet her yesterday, but his presence now dominated the room. He nodded at Evelyn, a gesture that felt more like an assessment than a welcome. She took a seat at a table near the back, her recorder tucked in her pocket, and scanned the room for Lily. The girl was there, near the center, her braids unmistakable. But Lily's eyes were downcast, her movements slower than the others, as if she was fighting the rhythm that bound her peers. Evelyn leaned forward, tried to catch her gaze, but a hand on her shoulder made her flinch. Ms. Varn stood behind her, her smile as cold as the stone walls. "Dr. Harrow, your sessions begin shortly. I trust you're prepared?" Her tone was polite, but laced with warning. Evelyn nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course, just getting a feel for the students." Ms. Varn's eyes narrowed, lingering a moment too long. Before she moved away, her heels clicking like a metronome. Evelyn's pulse quickened. She was being watched, and not just by the staff. The children, though they didn't look up, seemed aware of her, their synchronized movements faltering slightly when she shifted in her seat. Breakfast ended abruptly, the children rising as one and filing out in silence. Evelyn followed, directed by a staff member to a small therapy room on the first floor. It was sparse, with a table, 2 chairs, and a mirror on one wall that she suspected was two-way. Her first session was with Lily, and as the girl entered, Evelyn's unease deepened. Lily's face was pale, her eyes darting to the mirror before settling on Evelyn. She sat, her hands folded tightly in her lap, and Evelyn pulled out a notepad, signing, "Good morning, Lily. Let's try some signs today." Lily didn't respond, but her fingers twitched again, tracing that same fleeting shape in the air. Evelyn's skin prickled. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Yesterday you did something. Can you do it again?" Lily's eyes widened, and for a moment, Evelyn thought she'd bolt again. Instead, the girl reached out, her small hand brushing Evelyn's wrist, and the static returned. A sharp, electric jolt that carried a single word: danger. Evelyn gasped, pulling back, her chair scraping against the floor. The mirror seemed to loom larger, its surface reflecting her shock. Lily's face crumpled, and she signed rapidly, her hands shaking. "They see. They hear. Before Evelyn could respond, the door opened and Dr. Kessler stepped in, his presence filling the room like a storm cloud. "Dr. Harrow," he said, his voice smooth but edged with steel, "I hope you're finding Lily cooperative." His eyes flicked to the girl, who shrank in her seat. Evelyn's mind raced. She couldn't let him know what had happened. "Not yet. She's promising," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "We're just getting started." Kessler's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Good. We expect progress. Lily is special." He lingered, his gaze heavy, before leaving. The door clicked shut, and Evelyn exhaled, her hands trembling. Lily was staring at her, her eyes pleading, but the static word, danger, echoed in Evelyn's mind, louder than any sound. She ended the session early, claiming Lily needed rest, and retreated to her quarters, her recorder now heavy in her pocket. She played back the session, but the tape was filled with static, a low hum that matched the one she'd felt in the walls. Frustrated, she opened her notebook and added, Lily's warning, static communication, Kessler's suspicion. The pieces were forming a picture, but it was incomplete, like a puzzle missing its heart. She paced the room, the fog outside thickening, the light from her dream, that starless pulse, flickering in her memory. Then, a sound broke the silence, a faint scratching, like nails on wood, coming from the wall behind her desk. She froze, her breath catching. The scratching grew louder, rhythmic, deliberate. She pressed her ear to the wall, her heart pounding, and heard something else, a whisper, not her mind but real, muffled, and impossibly close. "They're not children." The voice was gone as quickly as it came, leaving only the hum, now louder, vibrating through the stone. Evelyn stepped back, her pulse racing. The wall was solid, no seams or panels, but the voice had been clear. She grabbed a pen and tapped the wall, listening for hollow spots, but found none. The scratching didn't return, but the words lingered, chilling her to the bone. "They're not children." What did it mean? Were the students something else? Or was someone, or something, trying to warn her? She glanced at the window, where the fog seemed to pulse, almost alive. Morningside was hiding something, and Lily was the key. But Evelyn knew she was treading dangerous ground. Kessler's watchful eyes, a mess. Varn's cold precision, the children's unnatural unity. It all pointed to a secret buried deep within the school's walls. She had to be careful, but she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when Lily's warning burned in her mind, and the hum grew louder, calling her to the truth. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Walls. Dr. Evelyn Harrow sat at the narrow desk in her quarters, the pen in her hand, trembling as she stared at the notebook. The words she'd scribbled, Lily's warning, static communication, Kessler's suspicion, "they're not children," seemed to pulse on the page, each one a thread in a web she couldn't yet untangle. The scratching in the wall had stopped, but its echo lingered, a ghostly reminder of the voice that had whispered through the stone. The air in Morningside Academy felt heavier now, charged with a tension that pressed against her skin. Outside, the fog clung to the window, swirling in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, and the faint hum she'd noticed yesterday was back, thrumming through the floor like a heartbeat. It was 9:43 p.m., her first day at the school drawing to a close, but sleep was impossible. Not after Lily's impossible warning, not after the voice in the wall, and not when every shadow in the room seemed to watch her. Evelyn closed her notebook, her resolve hardening. She needed answers, and she wouldn't find them hiding in her room. She slipped on her shoes, grabbed a small flashlight from her bag, and crept into the corridor. The portraits along the walls glared down, their painted eyes glinting in the dim light of the sconces. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the distant creak of the building settling, or so she told herself. Her first therapy sessions had been unsettling, the children's synchronized movements and blank stares confirming her suspicions. Their mutism wasn't natural. Lily had been the exception, her fleeting communication a crack in the school's facade. But even she had clammed up after Kessler's interruption. Evelyn's recorder, now useless with static, lay abandoned on her desk. She needed something tangible, a clue to what Morningside was hiding. The scratching had come from behind her wall, but the voice, "They're not children," suggested a secret buried deeper, perhaps literally within the school's foundations. She headed for the stairwell, her flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, her destination the ground floor. If there was a source to the hum, the voice, or the school's secrets, it might be below. The dining hall was empty, its chandeliers dark, the long tables gleaming like bones in the moonlight that filtered through high windows. Evelyn moved quickly, her boots soft against the polished floor, and found a side corridor she hadn't explored. It was narrower, the air colder, the walls lined with peeling wallpaper that curled like dead skin. The hum grew louder here, vibrating through her soles, and she followed it, her flashlight catching glints of dust motes suspended in the air. The corridor ended at a heavy door, its surface pitted with rust, a padlock securing it. A faded sign read basement access, authorized personnel only. Evelyn's pulse quickened. The hum was strongest here, a low thrum that seemed to resonate in her chest. She knelt, examining the padlock. It was old, the kind that might yield to a firm tug, but forcing it would leave evidence. She hesitated, weighing her options, when a faint sound stopped her. A scratch, like the one in her room, coming from behind the door. She pressed her ear to the cold metal, her breath shallow. The scratching was rhythmic, deliberate, not the random skitter of a rat. Then, a whisper, muffled but unmistakable. "Find it." Evelyn jerked back, her flashlight trembling in her grip. The voice was different from the one in her room. Higher, younger, almost pleading. Was it one of the children? Or something else, mimicking a child's tone? She gripped the padlock, her fingers slick with sweat, but before she could act, footsteps echoed from the corridor behind her. She doused her flashlight and pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding. The footsteps were measured, deliberate, and as they grew closer, she recognized the sharp click of MS. Varn's heels. A beam of light swept the corridor, and Evelyn held her breath, praying the shadows would hide her. Ms. Varn paused, her silhouette stark against the wall, then muttered something under her breath and turned back, her light fading with her steps. Evelyn exhaled, her legs shaky, and switched her flashlight back on. She couldn't risk the padlock tonight, not with Varn patrolling, but she needed something to show for her recklessness. She scanned the doorframe, her beam catching a sliver of paper wedged in a crack where the wood met the stone. She pried it out, her fingers careful, and unfolded it. It was a torn page, yellowed and brittle, part of a journal entry written in tight, hurried script. Project Voiceless is progressing, but the implants are unstable. The children exhibit side effects, synchronized behavior, sensitivity to the signal. Dr. Kessler insists the anomalies are within parameters, but I've seen the data. The source isn't terrestrial. If the signal strengthens, we risk. The rest was missing, the page torn jaggedly. Evelyn's mouth went dry. Project Voiceless. Implants, not terrestrial. The words burned into her mind, each one a confirmation of her worst fears. Morningside wasn't just a school, it was a laboratory, and the children were its subjects. She pocketed the fragment, her mind racing. The hum, the synchronized children, Lily's static warning, it all pointed to an experiment, something tied to a signal that wasn't from Earth. But what were the implants? And who, or what, was sending the signal? She retreated down the corridor, her flashlight off to avoid detection. The journal fragment a heavy weight in her pocket. Back in her quarters, she locked the door and spread the paper on her desk, studying it under the weak light of her lamp. The handwriting was precise but frantic, as if the author feared discovery. She added to her notebook, Project Voiceless, Implants, Non-Terrestrial Signal. The pieces were forming a picture, but it was incomplete, like a shadow moving just out of sight. She needed to find the rest of the journal, or at least get into that basement. But Kessler and Varn were watching, and the children, even Lily, were bound by whatever controlled them. As she sat, the hum returned, louder now, vibrating through the walls. She pressed her hand to the stone, feeling the pulse, and noticed something new, a faint warmth, as if the wall itself were alive. She stood, her flashlight sweeping the room, and froze. The portrait above her desk, a dour man in a 19th century suit, seemed different. His eyes, which had been fixed forward, now angled slightly toward her, the paint glistening as if freshly applied. She blinked, her breath catching, and the eyes snapped back to their original position. A trick of the light, she told herself. But her hands shook as she grabbed her coat and moved to the bed, away from the wall. The hum grew insistent, almost rhythmic, and with it came a sensation like the static from Lily's touch, creeping into her thoughts. It wasn't a word this time, but an image, a starless sky, pulsing with a single point of light, the same light from her dream. Evelyn clutched her notebook, her nails digging into the cover. The school was alive, its walls and portraits part of a system she didn't understand. The journal fragment was a start, but it raised more questions than answers. Who had written it? What was Project Voiceless trying to achieve? And why did the children's silence feel like a weapon? She glanced at the window, where the fog seemed to writhe, and made a decision. Tomorrow, she'd push Lily for more, riskier questions, and find a way to the basement. But for now, she needed to survive the night. She lay down, the hum lulling her into a fitful sleep, unaware that the portrait's eyes had shifted again, watching her as the fog outside pulsed in time with the school's hidden heart. Dr. Evelyn Harrow stood in the dim corridor, her flashlight beam trembling as it lingered on the rusted basement door. The journal fragment, now tucked inside her coat, burned against her chest with its cryptic revelations. Project Voiceless. Implants, non-terrestrial signal. The words had kept her awake long after the hum faded, their implications twisting her thoughts into knots. It was 2:14 a.m. The school cloaked in a silence, so deep it felt like a hell breath. Her second day at Morningside Academy loomed in a few hours, but she couldn't wait. The scratching she'd heard behind the door last night, the whispered "find it," demanded action. If the basement held answers, more of the journal, evidence of the experiment, she had to get inside. The padlock gleamed dully in her light, old but sturdy, mocking her resolve. She'd brought a hairpin and a small knife from her quarters, tools of desperation rather than expertise. But she'd seen enough locks in her years working in underfunded clinics to know this one might yield with patience. Her hand steadied, driven by the memory of Lily's static warning and the portrait's shifting eyes. She knelt, the cold stone biting through her jeans, and worked the hairpin into the lock, twisting gently while applying pressure with the knife. The hum was here again, stronger, vibrating through the floor and up her spine, as if the school itself were aware of her intrusion. Her flashlight, propped on the ground, cast long shadows that seemed to writhe in the corners of her vision. The corridor was empty, but the weight of being watched pressed against her, heavier than ever. Ms. Varn's patrol last night had been too close, and Evelyn knew the staff's vigilance wasn't random. They were guarding something, Project Voiceless, the children, or whatever lay beyond this door. The lock clicked softly, a small victory, but before she could turn it, the scratching returned, sharper now, like claws raking metal from the other side. She froze, her breath catching. The sound wasn't random. It was patterned, almost Morse-like, repeating in bursts of 3. Then, the whisper again, faint but clear, "Find it. Hurry." Evelyn's pulse roared in her ears. The voice was young, urgent, but it carried an unnatural edge, like a recording played through warped speakers. She wanted to call out, to ask who was there, but the risk of alerting the staff silenced her. Instead, she gripped the padlock, her fingers slick with sweat, and twisted. It gave with a groan, the sound louder than she'd expected, echoing down the corridor. She winced, dousing her flashlight and listening for footsteps. The silence held, but the hum grew louder, now a low thrum that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. She pushed the door open, the hinges creaking, and a wave of cold air hit her, carrying the scent of rust and something acrid, like burnt wiring. The darkness beyond swallowed her light, but she stepped forward, driven by the need to know. The basement stairs were narrow, the wood warped and slick with damp. Evelyn descended, her flashlight beam cutting through cobwebs that clung to her face like spectral hands. The hum was deafening here, resonating in her chest, and the walls, rough stone, not the polished granite of upstairs, glistened with moisture. At the bottom, the space opened into a low-ceilinged room, its corners lost to shadow. Metal shelves lined one wall, stacked with dusty crates and files, while a rusted generator hulked in the center, its surface etched with strange symbols that mirrored the chalkboard in Lily's classroom. Evelyn's stomach twisted. This wasn't a storage room. It was a lab, or had been. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering weakly, casting erratic light over a workbench strewn with tools and papers. She approached, her boots crunching on grit, and rifled through the documents. Most were illegible, stained with age, but one caught her eye, a blueprint labeled Implant Prototype V3. It showed a small device, no larger than a coin, with tendrils like nerve endings designed to interface with the brain. Her hand shook as she pocketed the blueprint. The journal fragment's words, implants, non-terrestrial, ringing in her mind. The children weren't just mute. They'd been altered, wired to something beyond human understanding. She turned to the shelves, searching for more, when the scratching resumed, now coming from the far wall. She followed it, her flashlight revealing a loose panel, its edges warped. She pried it open, wincing at the screech of metal, and found a small alcove stuffed with files and a leather-bound notebook, its cover cracked with age. The notebook's first page bore a handwritten title, Project Voiceless, Field Notes, Driving Marrow. Evelyn's breath hitched. Marrow, her own surname. A coincidence or something more? She flipped through, scanning entries dated 20 years ago. The signal is strongest at night. The children respond, but the implants cause pain. Kessler's pushing for higher frequencies, but I fear we're losing control. The source, it's not from Earth. It knows us. The words blurred as her flashlight flickered. The bulb overhead sputtering. The hum surged, a physical force now pressing against her skull. She stuffed the notebook into her coat, her mind racing. Dr. Marrow, whoever they were, had been part of this, and their fear was palpable. The scratching stopped abruptly, replaced by a new sound, a low, rhythmic thumping, like footsteps descending the stairs. Evelyn doused her light, her heart pounding, and ducked behind a crate. The thumping grew closer, deliberate, and a shadow stretched across the floor, elongated and wrong, as if its owner moved in ways a human shouldn't. She held her breath, the air thick with that burnt wire smell, now mixed with something organic like rotting leaves. The shadow paused, and a voice, Kessler's but colder, almost mechanical, muttered, "She's been here." The second voice, unfamiliar and guttural, replied, "Then we accelerate. The signal's ready." Evelyn's blood ran cold. They knew she'd been snooping, and accelerate sounded like a death sentence. The shadows moved away, the thumping fading, but she waited, counting to 100 before daring to move. She crept back to the stairs, the notebook and blueprint heavy in her coat, her mind a storm of fear and determination. The basement wasn't just a lab. It was a nexus, a place where the hum, the implants, and the signal converged. Lily's warning, danger, wasn't abstract anymore. It was real, and it was close. She reached the door, relocking the padlock with shaking hands, and slipped back to her quarters. The corridor's portraits now openly hostile, their eyes tracking her every step. In her room, she locked the door and spread her findings on the desk. The blueprint confirmed the implants were surgical, designed to link the children's minds to a signal. Marrow's notebook hinted at its purpose: communication, control, or both. With an entity that wasn't human. The hum, the scratching, the whispers, they were all part of it. The school a conduit for something vast and unknowable. Evelyn's thoughts turned to Lily, the only child who'd resisted, and the chalkboard symbols, which now seemed less like doodles and more like a language, perhaps the signal's own. She added to her notebook, basement lab, implants, DR. Marrow, signal source. The name Marrow nagged at her, a ghost from her own past she couldn't place. Had she heard it before, in her training, her family? She pushed the thought aside. Tomorrow, she'd confront Lily, push for more, and find a way to protect her. But as she lay down, the hum returned, louder, and the fog outside her window pulsed with that starless light. Watching, waiting. DR. Evelyn Harrow's hands shook as she clutched Dr. Marrow's notebook, its cracked leather cover warm against her palms, as if it held a pulse of its own. The basement's revelations, Project Voiceless. Implants, non-terrestrial signal, had shredded any hope that Morningside Academy was merely a school. The blueprint of the implant, a coin-sized device with tendrils designed to burrow into the brain, lay beside the notebook. Its technical sketch, a cold confirmation of the children's altered state. It was 6:45 a.m., her second day at Morningside, and the hum that had haunted her night was now a faint undercurrent, barely audible but ever present, like a predator stalking just out of sight. She'd hidden the notebook and blueprint under a loose floorboard beneath her bed, a precaution born of paranoia after hearing Kessler's chilling words in the basement. She's been here. Then we accelerate. Evelyn knew she was running out of time. The staff's watchfulness, the children's synchronized silence, and the school's living walls all pointed to a truth she was only beginning to grasp. Today, she had to push forward, starting with Lily and the strange performance mess. Varn had mentioned at breakfast, the silent choir. Evelyn dressed quickly, her movements fueled by a mix of fear and determination, and headed to the therapy room for her morning sessions. The corridor felt narrower today, the portrait's eyes more brazen, their painted gazes boring into her as she passed. The dining hall had been abuzz with an unusual energy at breakfast. The children's movements still eerily uniform but tinged with something new. Anticipation, perhaps, or dread. Ms. Varn had announced that the silent choir, a showcase of the children's unique talents, would take place that evening in the main hall. Dr. Kessler had nodded approvingly, his silver hair catching the chandelier light, his smile ablaze. Evelyn had caught Lily's eye across the room, the girl's face pale, her hands twitching as if fighting an invisible restraint. The memory of Lily's static warning, danger, and the whispered "find it" from the basement drove Evelyn forward. The choir was a clue, a chance to see the children in action and understand what the implants were doing to them. The therapy room was as stark as yesterday, its two-way mirror gleaming like an accusation. Lily was her first session, and when the girl entered, Evelyn's heart sank. Lily's braids were frayed, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion, and her movements were sluggish, as if the school's rhythm had begun to claim her. Evelyn signed, "Good morning, Lily. Are you okay?" but kept her voice low, aware of the mirror's unseen watchers. Lily's gaze flicked to the glass, then back to Evelyn, and she signed slowly, tired. "It's louder today." Evelyn's pulse quickened. She leaned closer, whispering, "What's louder? The fingerhead?" Lily nodded, her fingers trembling as she traced that familiar shape in the air. The one Evelyn now suspected was a symbol from the chalkboard or the basement's generator. Before Evelyn could press further, Lily's hand shot out, gripping her wrist, and the static surged again, a jolt of images this time, not words. A dark sky, a pulsing light, and a circle of children. Their mouths open but silent, their eyes glowing with an unnatural sheen. Evelyn gasped, pulling back, her chair scraping against the floor. The mirror seemed to pulse, and for a moment, she swore she saw a shadow move behind it. Lily's face crumpled, and she signed frantically, "Sorry. It hurts. They make us." Evelyn's mind raced. The implants were more than communication devices. They were conduits, forcing the children to connect with something. The signal, Marrow's notes had called it. She wanted to ask more, but the door opened, and Ms. Varn stepped in, her smile as cold as the Vermont frost. "Dr. Harrow, I trust you're making progress?" Her eyes lingered on Lily, who shrank in her seat. Evelyn forced calm into her voice. "We're building trust. It takes time." Varn's gaze sharpened, but she nodded and left, the door clicking shut like a trap. Evelyn turned back to Lily, whispering, "The choir tonight. What is it?" Lily's hands hesitated, then signed, "They show us." To them. Before Evelyn could ask who them was, Lily stood and left, her steps heavy, as if dragged by an unseen force. The day passed in a blur of sessions, each child as silent and synchronized as the last, their eyes avoiding hers. Evelyn's notebook grew heavier with observations. Children anticipate questions, move as one, resist only in fleeting moments. She kept the basement findings hidden, her fear of Kessler's acceleration growing with every hour. By evening, the main hall was transformed, its high ceilings draped with black cloth, the chandeliers dimmed to a sickly glow. The children stood in a semicircle, dressed in white robes, their faces blank but their hands twitching, as if fighting the implant's control. Evelyn sat in the front row, her recorder in her pocket, her eyes scanning for Lily. Dr. Kessler stood at a podium, his voice smooth as he addressed the small audience of staff and a few outsiders, men in suits who looked more like government agents than parents. "The silent choir," he said, "is a testament to our students' discipline and unity. Watch closely." The children raised their hands, their movements eerily precise, and began the performance. No sound came, but their gestures, sharp, flowing, synchronized, created a rhythm that filled the hall. Evelyn's skin prickled as the air thickened, the hum she'd felt in the walls now a tangible force, pressing against her chest. The children's eyes glowed faintly, a trick of the light or something more, and the hall seemed to warp, the walls bending inward, the chandeliers swaying without wind. Evelyn's recorder buzzed in her pocket, its static matching the hum, and her vision blurred, the children's gestures forming shapes in the air, symbols like those on the chalkboard. Pulsing with intent, she saw Lily at the center, her face strained, her hands moving slower, resisting. The hum surged, and a low moan filled the hall, not from the children, but from the air itself. A sound that wasn't sound, vibrating in Evelyn's bones. The audience gasped, some clutching their heads, others frozen in awe. Evelyn's heart pounded as objects in the hall, pens, papers, a glass of water, lifted slightly, trembling in midair before falling. The children's gestures grew frantic, their eyes brighter, and the hum became a scream, not audible but felt, a pressure that threatened to crack her skull. Lily stumbled, her hands dropping, and the effect faltered, the objects crashing to the floor, the hum receding. Kessler's face darkened, but he clapped, signaling the end. The children filed out, their robes whispering, and Evelyn caught Lily's eye, pleading, terrified. The staff ushered the audience out, but Evelyn lingered, her recorder still buzzing, her mind reeling. The silent choir wasn't a performance. It was a demonstration, a test of the implant's power to manipulate reality. To connect with them, the signal's source. Back in her quarters, Evelyn played the recorder, but captured only static, overlaid with faint, distorted whispers. "Find it. Hurry." She added to her notebook, "Silent choir, reality distortion, implants active." The choir had shown her the stakes. The children were conduits. Their silence a side effect of a power that could bend the world. Marrow's notes, the basement lab, Lily's resistance. They all pointed to a conspiracy older and deeper than Morningside itself. Evelyn knew she had to act, to find the rest of Marrow's journal, to protect Lily before Kessler's acceleration turned the children into something unstoppable. As she hid her notes, the hum returned, and the fog outside pulsed with that starless light, closer now, watching her through the glass. Chapter 3, The Eyes That Watch. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's breath fogged the air in her quarters, the chill of Morningside Academy seeping through the walls as if the building itself were exhaling. It was 5:22 a.m., the pre-dawn hours cloaking the school in a stillness that felt predatory. Her notebook lay open on the desk, its pages crowded with hurried scrawls. Project Voiceless, Implants, Non-Terrestrial Signal, Silent Choir, Reality Distortion. The memory of last night's performance burned in her mind. The children's glowing eyes, the air warping under their synchronized gestures. The hum that had screamed inside her skull. Lily's faltering resistance had been a fleeting hope, but Dr. Kessler's darkened expression as the choir ended was a warning. His muttered acceleration in the basement, coupled with the journal fragment and blueprint, painted a grim picture. The children were being turned into conduits for something beyond Earth, and Evelyn was running out of time to stop it. She hadn't slept, her nerves frayed by the hum that pulsed intermittently through the walls and the starless light that flickered in the fog outside her window. Now, as she prepared for her third day, a new sensation gripped her, the unshakable feeling of being watched. She stood, pacing the small room, her boots scuffing the worn floorboards. The portrait above her desk, the dour man whose eyes had seemed to shift, stared down with a fixed gaze, but she couldn't shake the sense that it saw her. The walls, the mirror in the therapy room, even the fog outside, they all felt alive, part of Morningside's machinery. She stopped at the window, peering into the swirling mist, and noticed something new, a faint glint, like a lens-catching light embedded in the frame. Her heart lurched. She grabbed her flashlight and a pocket knife, prying at the wood until a small device, no larger than a button, popped free. It was a camera, its tiny lens glinting like an insect's eye, wires trailing into the wall. Her stomach churned. They'd been watching her, recording her every move. Kessler, Varn, or whoever controlled Project Voiceless. She scanned the room, her flashlight beam darting across the walls, and found two more. One in the ceiling corner, another hidden in the bed frame. She crushed them under her heel, the plastic crunching like brittle bones, but the damage was done. They knew she'd been digging, and the basement intrusion had likely confirmed it. Evelyn's paranoia surged, her pulse a drumbeat in her ears. The hum was faint now, but it seemed to mock her, a reminder of the school's omnipresent awareness. She stuffed the notebook, journal fragment, and blueprint into her coat, unwilling to leave them in a room that was no longer safe. Her thoughts turned to Lily, the only child who'd shown resistance, whose static warnings, danger, they see, they hear, had guided her this far. Today's therapy session with Lily was her chance to push harder, to learn who they were and what the others might mean. As the basement whisper had hinted, but the cameras changed everything. If the staff were watching her room, they were likely monitoring the therapy room, the corridors, perhaps even the children themselves. She needed to be subtle, to act normal while unraveling the school's secrets. She dressed, her movements deliberate, and headed to the dining hall, the weight of the hidden documents pressing against her chest. The hall was as oppressive as ever, the children eating in their eerie unison, their spoons rising and falling like a mechanical ballet. Evelyn scanned for Lily, spotting her at the center table, her braids frayed, her eyes darting nervously. The girl's resistance was fading, her movements closer to the others, as if the implants were tightening their grip. Dr. Kessler sat at the head, his silver hair gleaming, his gaze lingering on Evelyn a moment too long before shifting away. Ms. Varn stood by the door, her clipboard a constant prop, her smile a mask. Evelyn took her seat, her recorder useless now. She'd stopped trusting it after the static, but her eyes cataloged every detail. The children's synchronized pauses, the staff's subtle glances, the faint hum that seemed to emanate from the walls. Breakfast ended with the usual abruptness, and Evelyn followed the children to the therapy room, her skin crawling under the weight of unseen eyes. Lily entered the session alone, her steps hesitant, her hands clenched into fists. Evelyn signed, "Good morning, Lily," but kept her voice low, aware of the two-way mirror and the likelihood of more cameras. She pulled out a notepad, writing, "Are we being watched?" and sliding it toward Lily. The girl's eyes widened, and she nodded, her fingers twitching as if itching to trace that symbol again. Evelyn wrote, "Who are they?" You said they see, they hear. Lily hesitated, then took the pen, her handwriting shaky. The others. Not us. Not you. Evelyn's breath caught. She wrote, "We're the others." Lily's hand trembled, and she scrawled in the signal. They talked through us. Before Evelyn could write more, Lily grabbed her wrist, and the static surged. A flood of images, a dark void, a pulsing light, and shapes, not human, moving in the distance. Their forms fluid wrong. The vision cut off as Lily released her, gasping, her face pale with pain. Evelyn's heart pounded, the mirror looming like a guillotine. She tore the page from the notepad, tucking it into her pocket, and signed, "We'll work on signs today to maintain the facade." But her mind was reeling. The others weren't staff or children. They were something else. Entities tied to the signal, using the implants to communicate or control. Marrow's notes had warned of a non-terrestrial source, and Lily's vision confirmed it. Something was out there, in the starless light, reaching through the children. The session ended too soon, Lily leaving with a glance that pleaded for help, and Evelyn retreated to the corridor, her thoughts a storm. The hum was louder now, vibrating through the floor, and the portraits seemed to lean closer, their eyes alive with malice. She needed to find more of Marrow's notes, to understand the signal and the others, but the cameras meant every move was a risk. Back in her quarters, Evelyn checked for more devices, finding another camera in the desk lamp. Its lens trained on her notebook's hiding spot. She crushed it, her anger flaring, but the act felt futile. The school was a panopticon, its walls and staff an extension of the signal's will. She pulled out the journal fragment, rereading Marrow's fear. The source, it knows us. The name Marrow still nagged at her, a shadow in her memory, but she had no time to dwell. The silent choir had shown the implant's power, and Lily's warning about the others suggested a purpose beyond communication, perhaps invasion or worse. Evelyn added to her notes, surveillance. The others, signal entities. She had to protect Lily, to find a way to disrupt the implants, but Kessler's acceleration loomed like a deadline. As she hit her notes, the hum surged, and the fog outside pulsed with that starless light, now brighter, closer, as if the others were drawing near. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's breath came in shallow bursts as she stood in her quarters. The crushed remains of the desk lamp camera glinting on the floor like shattered eyes. The discovery of surveillance devices, 4 now, counting the ones in the window, ceiling, and bed frame, had turned her room from a sanctuary into a trap. It was 3:17 p.m., the third day at Morningside Academy, and the weight of being watched pressed against her like a physical force. The hum, that ever-present pulse of the school, vibrated faintly through the walls, a reminder of the machinery or entity behind Project Voiceless. Her notebook, hidden under the floorboard with DR, Marrow's journal fragment, and the implant blueprint felt like a ticking bomb. Lily's cryptic warning from the morning session, the others, in the signal, they talked through us, echoed in her mind. Each word a shard of a truth she was only beginning to grasp. The children's implants weren't just tools. They were bridges to something non-human, something that lived in the starless light she'd seen in her dreams and the fog outside. Evelyn knew she had to move faster, to protect Lily and uncover the signal's purpose. But the cameras meant every step was a gamble. She sat on the bed, her coat still on, the journal fragment's words, the source, it knows us, burning in her memory. Lily's static vision had shown her a void, pulsing with shapes that weren't human, and the silent choir's reality-bending performance had proven the implant's power. The name Marrow, so close to her own, gnawed at her, a ghost she couldn't place. Was it a relative, a forgotten mentor, or just coincidence? She pushed the thought aside, focusing on Lily's warning about the others. If the signal was their voice and the implants their conduit, then Morningside was a staging ground, and Kessler's acceleration could mean opening that bridge fully. Evelyn needed more of Marrow's notes, a way to disable the cameras, a plan to shield Lily. She grabbed her flashlight and pocket knife. determined to search the therapy room for surveillance before her next session. If she could find a blind spot, she might get more from Lily without the staff's eyes on them. The corridor was a gauntlet of portraits, their gazes now openly hostile, the painted faces seeming to shift when she wasn't looking. The hum grew louder as she descended to the therapy room, its door ajar, the frosted window reflecting her tense silhouette. Inside, the two-way mirror loomed, but she focused on the corners, the light fixtures, the desk. Her flashlight caught a glint in the ceiling vent, and with a knife, she pried it open, revealing another camera, its lens trained on the table where she and Lily had written their notes. She crushed it, her anger flaring, but the act felt like swatting a single wasp from a hive. The mirror was likely wired too, and she couldn't risk dismantling it without tools. She scanned the room for a safe spot, settling on the corner farthest from the mirror, where the desk shadow might obscure their writing. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As she turned to leave, a faint scratch came from a wall behind the chalkboard, the same rhythmic pattern she'd heard in the basement. She froze, her flashlight beam darting to the board, where the symbols, curved lines, sharp angles, seemed to glow faintly, as if charged by the hum. The scratching stopped, but a whisper followed, so soft it might have been her imagination. "They see you." Evelyn's skin crawled. The voice was young, like the one in the basement, but its tone was flat, devoid of emotion. She pressed her hand to the wall, feeling the hum's warmth, and whispered back, "Who's there?" Silence answered, but the symbols on the chalkboard pulsed once, then faded. She backed away, her heart pounding. The school was alive, its walls a network of eyes and ears, and the children, or whatever spoke through them, knew she was fighting. She hurried back to the corridor, the portrait's eyes tracking her, and made it to the dining hall for lunch, where the children's synchronized movements felt more menacing, their silence a wall she couldn't breach. Lily was there, her eyes meeting Evelyn's for a fleeting moment, a spark of defiance still burning. Evelyn clung to that spark, knowing it was her only ally. The afternoon session with Lily was her chance. In the therapy room, Evelyn guided the girl to the shadowed corner, signing, "We're safe here," though she didn't believe it. She pulled out the notepad, writing, "Tell me about the others. What do they want?" Lily's hands shook as she took the pen, her handwriting jagged. "They want to come. Through us. The signal calls them." Evelyn's stomach twisted. She wrote, "Come where?" "Here." Lily nodded, her eyes darting to the mirror, then scrawled, "The choir opens the way." "It hurts us." Evelyn's mind flashed to the choir's reality warping effect, the floating objects, the glowing eyes. The implants weren't just receiving the signal. They were amplifying it, preparing for something, an invasion, a takeover. She wrote, "Can we stop it?" Lily's face crumpled, and she wrote, "I try. They punish." Before Evelyn could ask more, the door swung open, and Dr. Kessler stepped in, his presence a cold wind. "Dr. Harrow," he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "I hear you're bonding with Lily." His eyes flicked to the notepad, and Evelyn slid it under her hand, her pulse racing. "She's making progress," she said, forcing calm. "We're exploring communication barriers." Kessler's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Good. We expect results. The choir's next performance is soon, and Lily must be ready." He lingered, his gaze heavy, then left, the door clicking shut. Lily's hands were clenched, her knuckles white, and Evelyn wrote, "What punishment?" Lily's pen hesitated, then scrawled, "Pain. In our heads. When we fight." She touched her temple, wincing, and Evelyn's heart ached. The implants were weapons, torturing the children into compliance. She tore the page, pocketing it, and signed, "I'll help you. Stay strong." Lily nodded, but her eyes were haunted, as if the signal's grip was tightening. Back in her quarters, Evelyn added to her notebook, "Others want to come. Choir opens way. Implants punish resistance." The cameras, the whispers, the symbols, they were all part of a system. Morningside a beacon for the signals masters. She checked the floorboard, ensuring her findings were safe, and noticed a new scratch on the wood, fresh and deliberate, as if made while she was gone. Her blood ran cold. Someone, or something, had been here, searching. The hum surged louder, and the fog outside pulsed with that starless light, now so close it seemed to press against the glass. Evelyn's paranoia peaked, but so did her resolve. She had to find a way to disrupt the implants, to save Lily and the others before the choir's next performance. As she hit her notes, a new sound broke the hum, a low, rhythmic thumping like footsteps coming from the ceiling above. She froze, her flashlight trembling, knowing the eyes that watched were no longer just human. Chapter 4. Beneath the Silent Choir. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's flashlight cut through the darkness of the basement stairwell, each step creaking under her weight as she descended into Morningside Academy's hidden depths. It was 1:47 a.m. on her fourth day, the school wrapped in a silence that felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap. The hum, now a constant presence, thrummed through the stone walls, its rhythm syncing with her pulse, urging her deeper. Her coat bulged with Dr. Marrow's notebook, the implant blueprint and the torn journal fragment, their secrets driving her to risk another incursion. The cameras in her room, the thumping footsteps in the ceiling, and Lily's desperate warning, the others want to come. The choir opens the way, had left her no choice. The silent choir's reality-warping performance had shown the implant's power, and Dr. Kessler's ominous acceleration loomed like a guillotine. If the basement held more answers, more of Marrow's notes, proof of the experiment, she had to find it before the staff tightened their net. The rusted basement door, its padlock still loose from her last visit, yawned open, exhaling a breath of cold, acrid air that smelled of rust and burnt wiring. Evelyn's boots hit the damp floor, her flashlight sweeping the lab she'd glimpsed before. Metal shelves stacked with crates, the rusted generator etched with alien symbols, the workbench strewn with papers. The single bulb overhead flickered, casting erratic shadows that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking. The hum was deafening here, a physical force that pressed against her skull, and the air felt charged, as if the room itself were alive. She moved quickly, her pocket knife ready in case she needed to pry open more panels. The scratching she'd heard last time, find it, hurry, echoed in her memory, urging her to the alcove where she'd found Marrow's notebook. The loose panel was still there, but the alcove was empty now, its contents cleared out, likely by Kessler or his unseen ally from the basement shadows. Her stomach sank, but she refused to leave empty-handed. She turned to the shelves, rifling through crates, finding only moldy ledgers and broken equipment until one crate, heavier than the rest, revealed a locked metal box. Her hairpin and knife made quick work of the lock, the lid groaning as it opened to reveal a stack of medical files, their edges yellowed but intact. Evelyn's heart pounded as she flipped through them, each file bearing a child's name, Lily's among them, and detailed surgical reports. The records described procedures from 20 years ago, performed by a team led by Dr. Marrow. Implantation of V3 neural interface, occipital lobe, and auditory cortex to facilitate signal reception. The files included diagrams of the implant, matching the blueprint, and photos of surgical scars, small, crescent-shaped marks behind the ears, hidden by hair. Evelyn's fingers traced Lily's file, her throat tightening at the words. Subject exhibits resistance. Increased signal frequency recommended. The children hadn't been born mute. Their silence was a side effect of the implants, a deliberate crippling to make them better vessels for the signal. She stuffed the files into her coat, her mind racing. Marrow had been complicit, but their notes suggested fear, a scientist caught in something they couldn't control. The hum surged, the bulb overhead flickering wildly, and a new sound broke through, a low, rhythmic scraping like metal dragging across stone coming from the far corner. Evelyn's flashlight darted to the shadows, where a rusted grate covered a ventilation shaft. The scraping grew louder, deliberate, and a whisper followed, the same young voice from before, "They know you're here." Her blood ran cold. She backed toward the stairs, clutching the files, but the scraping stopped, replaced by a faint glow emanating from the grate, pulsing in time with the hum. Against her better judgment, she approached, her flashlight revealing a small object wedged inside. A child's drawing, crumpled but intact. She pulled it free, unfolding it to see a sketch of a dark sky, a single starless light, and a circle of children, their eyes glowing, their hands raised. At the center was a shape, fluid and wrong, like the entities in Lily's static vision. Scrawled in red crayon were the words, "They come soon." Evelyn's hands shook as she pocketed the drawing, the hum now a scream in her ears. The glow from the grate intensified, and the air thickened, pressing against her chest. She stumbled back, her flashlight flickering, and the shadows seemed to move, stretching toward her like fingers. The bulb overhead shattered, plunging the room into darkness save for the grate's eerie light. Panic clawed at her, but she forced herself to the stairs, her boots slipping on the damp wood. The hum followed, vibrating through her bones, and as she reached the door, a voice, not a whisper but a chorus, young and hollow, filled her mind. "Find it. Stop it." She slammed the door shut, relocking the padlock with trembling hands, and ran to her quarters, the corridor's portraits leering, their eyes alive with the same glow as the grate. In her room, she locked the door and spread the files on her desk, her flashlight the only light as the fog outside pulsed with that starless radiance. The medical records confirmed the implant's purpose: to connect the children to the signal, to make them conduits for the others. Lily's file noted her resistance, her pain, and Evelyn's heart ached for the girl, trapped in a body weaponized against her will. The drawing was a warning, its red crayon words, "They come soon," a deadline. Kessler's acceleration was bringing the others closer, and the silent choir was the key, its reality-warping power a test run for something larger. Evelyn added to her notebook, surgical scars, implants linked to others, choir as gateway. The name Marrow still haunted her, but the files offered no clues, only a signature that matched the journal's frantic script. She hid the files with her other findings, checking the floorboard for new scratches, finding none, but feeling no safer. The hum quieted, but the fog outside seemed to writhe, the starless light brighter, as if the others were pressing against the veil. Evelyn's paranoia was a living thing now, fed by the cameras, the voices, the school's relentless awareness. She had to act, find a way to disrupt the implants, protect Lily, stop the choir's next performance. But as she planned, a new sound broke the silence. A soft knock at her door, deliberate, almost polite. She froze, her flashlight trembling, and the knock came again, followed by a voice, Kessler's cold and final, "Dr. Harrow, we need to talk." Her heart stopped. The files, the drawing, her notes, they were all here, and Kessler's tone left no doubt. He knew. The hum surged, the fog pulsed, and Evelyn realized the trap had finally closed. Dr. Evelyn Harrow stood frozen in her quarters, the soft knock at her door echoing like a gunshot in the oppressive silence of Morningside Academy. Dr. Kessler's voice, cold and final. "Dr. Harrow, we need to talk," cut through the hum that pulsed through the walls, its rhythm now a taunt. It was 2:03 a.m., the fourth day of her descent into the school's secrets, and the weight of her findings. The medical files, Dr. Marrow's notebook, the implant blueprint, and the child's drawing with its chilling "They come soon," pressed against her chest. Hidden under the floorboard, the starless light in the fog outside pulsed brighter, as if the others Lily had warned were watching, waiting. Evelyn's heart pounded, her flashlight trembling in her hand. Kessler's presence at her door wasn't a coincidence. He knew she'd been in the basement, had seen the files, and his acceleration was closing in. She had seconds to decide, open the door and face him, or stall and risk him forcing his way in. The hum surged, a low scream in her bones, and she shoved her notebook into her coat, her mind racing for a way out. She forced her voice steady, calling one moment Dr. Kessler as she scanned the room for an escape. The window was too high, the fog too thick to trust. and the corridor beyond the door was a trap. She grabbed her pocket knife, slipping it into her sleeve, and opened the door a crack, her body blocking the view inside. Kessler stood there, his silver hair gleaming in the dim sconce light, his face a mask of calm that didn't reach his eyes. "Dr. Harrow," he said, his voice smooth as ice. "You've been busy. May I come in?" His tone left no room for refusal, but his eyes flicked past her, searching. Evelyn's skin crawled. He was probing, testing her reaction, and the crushed cameras under her bed were a secret she couldn't let him find. "It's late," she said, forcing a smile. "Can this wait until morning? I'm preparing for tomorrow's sessions." Kessler's smile tightened, a predator baring teeth. "I insist. It's about Lily. She's unwell." The mention of Lily sent a jolt through Evelyn, but she stepped aside, her hand tightening on the knife in her sleeve. Kessler entered, his presence filling the small room, and closed the door with a deliberate click. He glanced at the desk, the bed, the floorboard, as if he could smell her secrets. "You've taken an interest in our methods," he said, pacing slowly. "The choir, the children's progress. But you've overstepped, Dr. Harrow. Morningside is delicate work, and curiosity can be dangerous." His words were a blade, and Evelyn's pulse raced. He knew about the basement, the files, perhaps even a drawing. She played dumb, her voice calm. "I'm here to help the children, Dr. Kessler. Lily's resistance is a challenge, but I'm making progress." He stopped, his eyes boring into hers. "Resistance is a flaw we're correcting. The choir's next performance will be transformative. You do well to focus on your role." Evelyn's mind flashed to the choir's reality-warping power, the floating objects, the glowing eyes. Transformative meant the others were closer, the signal stronger. She needed to keep him talking to buy time. "The choir's impressive," she said, "but I've noticed anomalies. The children seem in pain. Is that normal?" Kessler's smile faltered, a crack in his facade. "Pain is temporary. The signal demands adjustment. You'll see tomorrow night." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "But if you interfere, Dr. Harrow, you'll find Morningside less welcoming." The threat was clear, and as he turned to leave, his foot brushed the floorboard, the loose wood creaking. Evelyn's heart stopped, but he didn't pause, his silhouette vanishing into the corridor, the door left ajar. She locked it, her hands shaking, and checked the floorboard. The files, notebook, and drawing were untouched, but Kessler's visit was a warning. They were watching, and her time was short. She needed more from the basement, something to disrupt the implants before the choir's next performance. The hum was louder now, vibrating through her bones, and she grabbed her flashlight, slipping back to the basement door. The padlock yielded easily, the rusted hinges groaning as she descended into the lab. The air was colder, the burnt wire smell sharper, and the generator's symbols glowed faintly, pulsing with the hum. She moved to the workbench, searching for anything new, and found a sealed folder tucked beneath a pile of schematics. It was labeled Project Voiceless, Phase 2, and inside were reports dated a year ago. Signal amplification successful. Implants now sustain two-way communication. Subjects exhibit physical anomalies, scar tissue hardening, neural feedback loops. The others are pleased. Evelyn's stomach churned. The implants weren't just receiving. They were sending, linking the children to the others in a feedback loop that was changing them. The reports mentioned surgical scars hardening, as if the implants were fusing with their bodies. She thought of Lily's pain, her resistance, and the crescent-shaped scars behind her ears. The folder included a map of the basement, showing a second chamber beyond the ventilation shaft where she'd found the drawing. She approached the rusted grate, its glow now gone, and pried it open with her knife, revealing a narrow tunnel. The hum was deafening here, the air thick with that organic rot smell, and she crawled through, her flashlight shaking. The tunnel opened into a smaller room, its walls lined with monitors, all dark except one, flickering with static and a single image, a void, a pulsing starless light, and shapes moving within it, fluid and wrong. Her breath caught as the monitor flickered, the shapes seeming to turn toward her, their forms sharpening for a moment. Elongated, eyeless, their surfaces rippling like liquid. The hum became a voice, not in her ears but her mind. She sees. Evelyn stumbled back, her flashlight dropping, and the monitors went dark, the hum receding. She grabbed her light, her hands trembling, and noticed a steel cabinet in the corner. Inside were vials of a silvery liquid, labeled Neural Suppressant V3, and a single syringe. A note taped to the cabinet, in Marrow's handwriting, read, "For emergencies. Blocks signal temporarily." Evelyn's heart leaped. This could help Lily, could stop the pain, maybe disrupt the choir. She took a vial and syringe, pocketing them, and crawled back through the tunnel, the hum surging as if angry. She reached the lab, her coat heavy with new evidence, but footsteps echoed above, sharp, deliberate, Ms. Varn's heels. Evelyn doused her light, hiding behind the generator as Varn descended, her flashlight sweeping the room. "She's been here again," Varn muttered, her voice cold. Kessler was right. She paused, her light lingering on the workbench, then left, her footsteps fading. Evelyn waited, counting to 100 before slipping back to her quarters, the hum now a low growl. She hid the vial and syringe with her other findings, adding to her notebook, Phase 2, two-way communication, suppressant found. The monitors, the shapes, the others, they were real, and the choir was their gateway. Tomorrow's performance was the deadline, and Kessler's threat meant she was out of allies. But the suppressant was hope, a way to fight back. As she lay down, the fog outside pulsed. The starless light, so close it seemed to whisper her name. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's hands trembled as she clutched the vial of neural suppressant, its silvery liquid catching the dim light of her quarters. The hum of Morningside Academy pulsed through the walls, a relentless heartbeat that seemed to mock her dwindling options. It was 6:30 p.m. on her fourth day, the air thick with the anticipation of the silent choir's second performance, set to begin in an hour. The medical files, Dr. Marrow's notebook, the implant blueprint, and the child's drawing. They come soon. Were hidden under the floorboard, each piece a damning clue to Project Voiceless Purpose, turning the children into conduits for the others. Entities from starless void, Lily's warnings, the basement's monitors showing fluid, eyeless shapes, and Dr. Kessler's chilling threat. Curiosity can be dangerous, had stripped away any pretense. The choir wasn't a performance. It was a ritual, a step toward opening a gateway, and Kessler's acceleration meant tonight could be the tipping point. Evelyn's discovery of the suppressant offered a sliver of hope, a way to block the signal and protect Lily, but the cameras, the staff's vigilance, and the school's living walls made every move a deadly risk. She slipped the vial and syringe into her coat, her heart pounding as she prepared for the evening. The main hall was already being set up. The black drapes hum, the chandeliers dim to a sickly glow. At dinner, the children had been quieter than usual, their synchronized movements tinged with a tremor, as if the implants were straining them. Lily's eyes had met hers across the dining hall, hollow with fear, her hands twitching as if fighting the signal's pull. Evelyn's plan was desperate. Get to Lily before the choir, administer the suppressant, and disrupt the performance. But Kessler's visit last night and Ms. Varn's basement patrol meant the staff were closing in. The hum surged, vibrating through her bones, and the fog outside her window pulsed with that starless light, now so bright it cast shadows across the room. The others were near, their presence a pressure in her skull, and Evelyn knew she was running out of time. She headed to the main hall, her flashlight tucked away, the knife in her sleeve a cold comfort. The corridor's portraits seemed to leer, their eyes glowing faintly, as if the signal had infected them too. The hall was packed with staff and the same suited outsiders from the first performance, their faces unreadable, their presence more menacing now that Evelyn knew the stakes. The children stood in their white robes, a semicircle of pale faces under the flickering chandeliers, their hands clasped tightly, Lily was at the center, her braids frayed, her eyes darting to Evelyn with a plea that cut through the hum. Kessler stood at the podium, his silver hair gleaming, his voice smooth as he addressed the crowd. Tonight, our students demonstrate the pinnacle of their training. The silent choir is more than art. It's a bridge to the future. His words were a code, and the outsiders nodded, their eyes glinting with something like hunger. Evelyn slipped to the edge of the room, her coat concealing the syringe as she scanned for a chance to reach Lily. The children raised their hands, their gestures sharp and synchronized, and the hum became a physical force, pressing against her chest. The air thickened, the walls bending inward, and the chandeliers swayed, their crystals clinking like teeth. The children's eyes glowed, brighter than before, and the symbols from the chalkboard appeared in the air, pulsing with a sickly light. Evelyn's recorder, useless in her pocket, buzzed with static, and her vision blurred, the hull warping as if reality were a canvas being stretched. The audience gasped, some clutching their heads, others leaning forward, enthralled. Objects began to lift, pens, chairs, a wine glass from a staff member's hand, hovering in midair, trembling with the hum's rhythm. Evelyn's heart pounded as the floor vibrated, cracks spiderwebbing across the stone, and a low moan filled the air, not from the children, but from the void itself, a sound that clawed at her mind. Lily's face was strained, her gestures faltering, her hands shaking as she fought the signal. Evelyn edged closer, her hand on the syringe, but Ms. Varn's eyes locked onto her from across the room. Her clipboard discarded, her smile gone. The hum surged, a scream now, and the floating objects spun wildly, some shattering against the walls. The children's eyes glowed brighter, their scars, those crescent marks behind their ears, pulsing with the same light as the symbols. Evelyn's head throbbed, the hum pressing images into her mind, the void, the starless light, and the others, their fluid forms solidifying, reaching through the signal. The hall shook, dust falling from the ceiling, and a window cracked, the fog outside pouring in, thick and alive. Carrying that starless glow, Lily stumbled, her hands dropping, and the effect wavered, objects crashing to the floor, the hum receding slightly. The crowd murmured, some in awe, others in fear. But Kessler's face was a storm, his eyes fixed on Lily. Evelyn seized the moment, slipping through the chaos to reach Lily, but Varn was faster, her heels clicking as she intercepted. "Dr. Harrow," she hissed, her hand gripping Evelyn's arm. "You're out of place." Evelyn yanked free, her knife flashing in her sleeve, but Varn's eyes narrowed, unafraid. "Don't," she warned, her voice low. "You can't stop it." Before Evelyn could respond, Kessler clapped, signaling the choir's end, and the children filed out, their robes whispering, their eyes dimming. Lily glanced back, her face pale, her hands signing a single word, "Help." Evelyn's heart ached, but Varn's grip tightened, steering her toward the exit. "Stay in your lane." "Dr. Harrow," she said, releasing her as the crowd dispersed. The hall emptied, the cracks in the floor and the shattered glass the only evidence of the choir's power, but the hum lingered, a promise of worse to come. Back in her quarters, Evelyn locked the door, her hands shaking as she pulled out the suppressant. The choir had nearly torn the hall apart, and Lily's resistance was weakening. The others were closer, their forms almost solid in her vision, and Kessler's acceleration was pushing the children beyond their limits. She added to her notebook, "Choir distorts reality, others manifesting, Lily weakening." The suppressant was her only weapon, but administering it meant getting past Varn and Kessler, and the cameras were still a threat. She checked the floorboard, finding a new scratch, fresh and deep, as if claws had raked the wood. Her blood ran cold. Someone had been here, searching, and the hum surged, the fog outside pulsing with that starless light. Now, so close it seemed to whisper through the glass. A new sound broke the silence, a faint scratching, like the basement's, coming from the wall behind her desk. She froze, her flashlight trembling, and the whisper came again, young and hollow. They're here. Evelyn's resolve hardened. She had to act tonight before the next choir performance, before the others crossed through. She slipped the syringe into her sleeve, her plan forming. Find Lily, use the suppressant, and disrupt the signal. But as she moved to leave, the scratching grew louder, and the portrait above her desk shifted, its eyes glowing with the same light as the fog, its mouth curling into a smile that wasn't painted. The hum became a voice, not in her ears but her mind. She fights. She fails. Evelyn backed away, her heart pounding, knowing the school was no longer just watching. It was acting, and the others were already inside. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's breath caught in her throat as the portrait's glowing eyes bored into her, its painted smile twisting in the dim light of her quarters. The hum of Morningside Academy was a deafening roar now, vibrating through the walls and into her bones, carrying the chilling voice that had invaded her mind. She fights. She fails. It was 8:12 p.m. on her fourth day, the silent choir's second performance still reverberating in her memory. The cracked floor, the shattered glass, the fog seeping through the broken window, alive with the starless light of the others. The syringe of neural suppressant, tucked in her sleeve beside her pocket knife, was her only weapon against the signal that bound the children. But the school itself seemed to be turning against her. The fresh scratch on the floorboard, the whispering walls, and Dr. Kessler's thinly veiled threat. Curiosity can be dangerous. Confirmed she was out of time. Lily's desperate sign. Help burned in her mind, and Evelyn knew she had to act now, before the next choir performance opened the gateway to the entities Lily had called the others. But the portrait's gaze, alive and malevolent, rooted her to the spot. A warning that Morningside was no longer just a building. It was a predator, and she was its prey. The hum surged, and the portrait's eyes dimmed, its smile fading to its original dour expression. Evelyn exhaled, her hands shaking as she grabbed her flashlight and checked the floorboard. The medical files, Dr. Marrow's notebook, the implant blueprint, and the child's drawing, they come soon, were still there, untouched despite the claw-like scratch. She slipped the syringe in her coat pocket, her plan chaotic but resolute. Find Lily. Administer the suppressant to block the signal and disrupt the implant's hold. The children's quarters were on the second floor, heavily guarded, but the chaos of the choir's aftermath might give her a window. She stepped into the corridor, the portrait's eyes tracking her, their glow faint but unmistakable. The hum pulsed in time with her steps, and the fog outside the windows writhed. The starless light now, so bright it cast her shadow across the wall, distorted and wrong. She reached the stairwell, her flashlight off to avoid detection, when a hand clamped onto her shoulder, cold and unyielding. She spun, her knife flashing, but Dr. Kessler's face loomed in the dim light. His silver hair glinting, his eyes sharp as blades. "Dr. Harrow," he said, his voice low and final. "You're predictable." Her heart stopped, the syringe heavy in her pocket, her mind racing for an excuse. "I was checking on Lily," she stammered. After the choir, she seemed unwell. Kessler's smile was a slash, devoid of warmth. "Lily is fine, but you've been places you shouldn't. The basement, for instance." His grip tightened, steering her toward the main hall, his strength surprising for his age. Evelyn's knife was useless. He was too close, his presence too commanding, and the hum seemed to amplify his words, as if the school itself were speaking through him. "You've seen things," he continued, "but you don't understand. Morningside is history in the making, and you're a liability." They entered the hall, now empty, the cracked floor and shattered glass untouched, as if preserved as evidence. Ms. Varn stood by the podium, her clipboard gone, her eyes glinting with the same unnatural light as the fog. The children were gone, likely back to their quarters, but the air was thick, the hum a physical weight. Kessler released Evelyn, his gaze never wavering. "You found Marrow's work," he said, not a question. "You think it's monstrous, but it's salvation. The others offer knowledge, power a new era. The children are the bridge, and the choir is the key. Evelyn's stomach churned. He was admitting it. Project Voiceless was a pact with something alien, and the children were sacrifices. She clutched the syringe, her voice steady despite her fear. "You're hurting them. Lily's in pain. The implants are killing them." Kessler's laugh was cold, echoed by Varn's smirk. "Pain is progress. The signal demands sacrifice. Tomorrow's performance will complete the link." Evelyn's mind flashed to the choir's reality-warping power, the others solidifying in the void. Tomorrow was too soon. She needed a stall to reach Lily. "Let me help," she said, feigning compliance. "I can work with Lily, make her compliant." Kessler's eyes narrowed, assessing her, but Varn stepped forward, her voice sharp. "She's lying. She was in the basement again. I found the grate open." Evelyn's blood ran cold. They knew about the suppressant, or suspected it. Kessler's smile returned, predatory. "Then you'll watch the choir from a safer vantage, Dr. Harrow. No more wandering." He nodded to Varn, who produced a key and gestured to a side door. Evelyn's heart sank. They were locking her away, isolating her until the others arrived. She lunged, her knife slashing at Varn, but Kessler was faster, his hand catching her wrist, twisting until the knife clattered to the floor. "Enough," he growled, dragging her to the door. The room beyond was a small office, its walls lined with monitors, some showing the children's quarters, others the basement lab. Varn locked the door, leaving Evelyn alone, her coat still hiding the syringe. The monitors flickered, one showing Lily in her bed, her face contorted in pain, her hands clutching her temples. Evelyn's heart ached. She was so close, yet trapped. The hum surged, and the monitors buzzed, static overlaying an image of the void. The starless light pulsing, the others moving closer, their forms almost solid. A whisper filled the room, young and hollow. "She's here." Evelyn froze, her eyes darting to the corners. But she was alone, or so it seemed. She searched the desk, finding a paperclip, and worked at the lock, her hands steady despite the hum's pressure. The door clicked open, and she slipped out. The hall now dark, the fog seeping through the cracked windows, alive with light. She ran to the children's quarters, the hum a scream now, the portrait's eyes glowing like beacons. The guard was gone, likely tending to the choir's aftermath, and Evelyn slipped inside, finding Lily's bed. The girl was curled up, her scars pulsing faintly, her eyes wide with pain. Evelyn knelt, whispering, "Lily, I'm here," and pulled out the syringe. Lily's hands signed weakly. "It hurts. They're coming." Evelyn nodded, her voice soft. "This will help. Trust me." She injected the suppressant, the silvery liquid disappearing into Lily's arm, and the girl gasped, her scars dimming, her eyes clearing. The hum faltered, a glitch in its rhythm, and Lily signed its quieter. Evelyn's hope surged, but footsteps echoed. Varn's heels, sharp and fast. She hid the syringe, pulling Lily behind her as Varn burst in, her face a mask of fury. "You've ruined her," Varn hissed, lunging, but Lily's hand shot out, her eyes glowing briefly, and Varn staggered, clutching her head. Evelyn grabbed Lily, running for the corridor, the hum roaring back, the fog now inside. Swirling around them, the starless light pulsed, and a shape moved in the mist, fluid, eyeless, real. Evelyn's heart pounded as she dragged Lily toward the basement, the only place she knew might hold more suppressant. The school was alive, the walls whispering, "She fails," but Lily's hand in hers was a lifeline. They reached the basement door, the hum a scream, the shape in the fog closer, its form solidifying. Evelyn knew the choir's next performance would be the end, but the suppressant had worked, and she'd fight until her last breath to save Lily and stop the others. Chapter 5, The Signal Beyond. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's boots pounded against the basement stairs, the hum of Morningside Academy, a deafening roar that drowned out her ragged breaths. Lily's small hand clung to hers, the girl's steps faltering but determined as they fled the swirling fog and the fluid, eyeless shape that had emerged in the corridor. It was 8:47 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was no longer just a building. It was a conduit, its walls pulsing with the starless light of the others. The neural suppressant had worked, dimming Lily's scars and quieting the signal's grip, but Ms. Varn's furious pursuit and the entity in the fog meant their escape was temporary. The medical files, Dr. Marrow's notebook, the implant blueprint, and the child's drawing. They come soon. Were still hidden in Evelyn's quarters, but the syringe in her pocket was empty, its single dose used. The basement lab, with its vials of suppressant and alien symbols, was their only hope for more, but the hum's relentless pulse and the shape's pursuit suggested the others were closing in, drawn by the silent choir's ritual. Evelyn's heart pounded as she pushed open the rusted basement door, the air thick with the burnt wire smell of the lab below. They stumbled into the lab, the single bulb overhead flickering wildly, casting shadows that seemed to writhe across the rusted generator and cluttered workbench. Lily's face was pale, her scars faintly glowing again, the suppressant's effect already fading. Evelyn locked the door, her hands shaking, and scanned the room for the steel cabinet where she'd found the suppressant. The hum was a physical force now, pressing against her skull, and the monitors in the hidden chamber flickered in her memory, their images of the void and the others burned into her mind. "Stay here," she whispered to Lily, guiding her behind a crate. The girl signed, "They're close. I feel them." Her hands trembled, but her eyes held a spark of defiance, a bond forming between them through shared desperation. Evelyn nodded, her throat tight. "I'll find more medicine. We'll stop this." But as she moved to the tunnel leading to the second chamber, a new sound cut through the hum, a sharp, erratic buzz, like static from a radio coming from the workbench. She froze, her flashlight sweeping the cluttered surface until it landed on an old radio. Its dials rusted, its antenna bent. The buzz grew louder, punctuated by bursts of distorted noise. Not words, but patterns, almost musical, that synced with the hum. Evelyn approached, her pulse racing, and twisted the dial, the static shifting into a clearer signal, a low, rhythmic tone, overlaid with clicks and whines that felt alive, intelligent. The sound wasn't random, it was communication, and it matched the images Lily had sent through her static touch. A dark void, a pulsing starless light, the others moving within. Evelyn's breath caught. This was the signal, the one Marrow's notes had feared, the one the implants were built to receive. She grabbed a notebook from the workbench, jotting down the signal's patterns. Her hands steadied despite the hum's pressure. The radio crackled, and a voice, not human, but mimicking one, whispered through the static. "She hears. She fights." Evelyn recoiled, the radio's antenna glowing faintly, the same light as the fog outside. Lily signed frantically, "It's them, the others." Her scars pulsed brighter, and she winced, clutching her temples. Evelyn's heart ached. She needed the suppressant now. She crawled through the tunnel to the second chamber. The monitors dark, but the steel cabinet still there. She pried it open, finding 3 more vials of suppressant, their silvery liquid glinting like hope. She grabbed them, along with a second syringe, and crawled back, the radio's signal now a scream, the hum shaking the walls. Lily was curled up, her eyes wide with pain, but she signed, "They're talking. They want in." Evelyn injected another dose, the suppressant calming Lily's scars, her breathing easing. "What do they say?" Evelyn whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum. Lily's hands moved slowly. "They promise things. Knowledge. Power. But they lie. They take us." Her eyes filled with tears, and Evelyn pulled her close, their bond a lifeline in the chaos. The radio crackled again, the signal shifting, and the monitors in the chamber flickered on, showing the void, the starless light, and the others, their forms sharper now, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal. The hum became a voice in Evelyn's mind. She resists. She fails. She shut off the radio, the static fading, but the hum persisted, the walls glowing with the same symbols as the generator. The signal wasn't just extraterrestrial. It was alive, sentient, and it knew her. She helped Lily stand, the girl's strength returning, and they moved to the workbench, searching for anything to disrupt the signal. Evelyn found a schematic labeled Signal Disruptor Prototype. Its notes in Marrow's handwriting. Blocks V, 3 implant frequency. Untested, risk of neural overload. It was a long shot, but with the choir's next performance looming, it was better than nothing. She pocketed the schematic, her mind racing. The suppressant could protect Lily, but the disruptor might stop the choir entirely. Footsteps echoed above. Varn's heels, joined by heavier boots, likely Kessler's. The hum surged, the walls shaking, and the radio sparked back to life. Its signal now a chorus of voices. She hides. She falls. Evelyn grabbed Lily, pulling her toward the tunnel, but the basement door rattled, the lock groaning under force. "They're coming," she whispered, her flashlight dousing as she pushed Lily into the tunnel. The girl signed, "We fight." Evelyn nodded, her resolve hardening. They crawled to the second chamber. The monitors now blazing with the others' forms, their shapes almost solid, reaching through the void. Evelyn's heart pounded as she hid the vials and schematic in her coat. The hum a scream now, the walls pulsing with light. The door above burst open, Varn's voice sharp. "She's here. Find her." Evelyn and Lily crouched behind the cabinet, the suppressant their only shield. The signal's extraterrestrial truth, a weight they couldn't escape. Dr. Evelyn Harrow crouched in the dim shadows of the basement's second chamber, her heart hammering as the hum of Morningside Academy roared through the walls, a relentless pulse that seemed to claw at her mind. Lily pressed close beside her, the girl's small frame trembling but her eyes fierce, the neural suppressant's effects holding the signal at bay for now. It was 9:03 p.m. on Evelyn's fourth day, and the school was a living nightmare. Its fog-choked corridors and glowing symbols a testament to the others, the extraterrestrial entities reaching through the implants. The radio's signal, a rhythmic chorus of clicks and whines, had confirmed the implant's purpose, a bridge to a void where fluid, eyeless shapes waited, their forms sharpening with each silent choir performance. The vials of suppressant, the signal disruptor schematic, and Lily's desperate sign, "We fight," were all Evelyn had against Dr. Kessler's acceleration and Ms. Varn's pursuit. The monitors behind them flickered, the starless light pulsing, the others watching, their voices echoing in her mind. She hides. She falls. The basement door above groaned under Varn's assault, her voice sharp. "Find her!" And Evelyn knew their hiding spot was seconds from discovery. She tightened her grip on Lily's hand, whispering, "Stay low. We'll get out." The girl nodded, her scars faintly glowing again, the suppressant's protection waning. Evelyn's coat bulged with the vials, syringe, and schematic, their weight a reminder of her mission. Protect Lily, disrupt the signal, stop the choir. The tunnel back to the main lab was their only exit, but Varn's boots and Kessler's heavier steps echoed closer, the hum amplifying their presence. Evelyn's flashlight was off, the monitor's sickly glow her only guide as she nudged Lily toward the tunnel. But before they could move, Lily tugged her sleeve, her hands signing rapidly. "I saw them. In a drawing." Evelyn's breath caught. She whispered, "What drawing?" Lily's fingers trembled as she signed, sky voice. "I drew it. In my room." Evelyn's mind flashed to the child's drawing from the basement vent. They come soon, and realized Lily might hold another clue, something to unravel the signal source. The door above splintered. Varn's voice a hiss. "She's in the lab." Evelyn pushed Lily into the tunnel, crawling behind her. The hum a scream now, the monitors blazing with the others' forms, their shapes almost solid, their surfaces rippling like molten metal. They reached the main lab, the rusted generator glowing with symbols, the radio sparking back to life with that alien signal. Clicks, whines, and a whispered she runs. Evelyn helped Lily stand, scanning for an escape. The basement door was breached, boots pounding down the stairs, but a side passage, barely visible behind a crate, caught her eye. She pulled Lily toward it. The passage narrow and damp, its walls slick with moss and etched with faint, familiar symbols. The hum followed, but the passage led upward, emerging in a storage room near the children's quarters. Evelyn locked the door, her heart racing, and turned to Lily. "Your drawing, where is it?" Lily signed. "Under my bed." "Hidden." Her eyes darted to the door, the hum vibrating through the floor. Evelyn nodded, her plans shifting. The drawing could reveal more about the sky voice, the signal's source. And with the suppressant and disruptor schematic, they might stop the choir's next performance. They slipped into the children's quarters, the hall eerily empty. The other children likely sedated after the choir's chaos. Lily's bed was in a corner, its mattress thin, and she knelt, pulling out a crumpled paper. The drawing was stark, a black sky, a single starless light, and a shape, not human, but a mass of tendrils pulsing like a heart. At its base, children stood, their scars glowing, and scrawled in blue crayon with sky voice talks. "We answer." Evelyn's stomach twisted. The others weren't just communicating, they were commanding, and the children were their vessels. Footsteps broke her thoughts, soft, hurried. Not Varn's heels or Kessler's boots. Evelyn shoved the drawing into her coat, pulling Lily behind a curtain as a figure appeared. Mr. Tate, a young staff member who'd been silent in meetings. His face pale, his eyes wild. He clutched a satchel, glancing nervously as he moved toward the exit. Evelyn's instinct screamed. He was fleeing, and he knew something. She stepped out, blocking his path, her voice low. "Going somewhere, Tate?" He froze, his satchel slipping, revealing a stack of files stamped Project Voiceless. "You don't understand," he stammered, backing away. "It's too late. They're here." Evelyn's heart pounded. "Who's here?" "The others." Tate's eyes widened, and he bolted, but Evelyn lunged, grabbing his arm. "Talk, or I scream for Kessler." Tate's resistance crumbled, his voice a whisper. "The signal, it's not just communication. It's invasion. The implants open a door, and the choir's the key. I saw them, on the monitors in the fog. They're not just voices, they're here." He pointed to the window, where the fog pulsed with that starless light, shapes moving within, fluid and raw. Evelyn's blood ran cold. "Then help us stop it," she said, nodding to Lily. Tate shook his head, his face ashen. "You can't. Kessler sold us out. The others promised him power. I'm done." He yanked free, sprinting for the exit, but the hum surged, and a shadow moved in the fog, a tendril, solidifying, reaching through the glass. Tate screamed, the window shattering, and the tendril lashed out, dragging him into the fog. His cries cut off as the light pulsed brighter. Evelyn pulled Lily back, her mind reeling. Tate's files lay scattered, one page catching her eye. Signal frequency log, 2024. Source, extraterrestrial. Confirmed by DARPA contact. The others were real, their invasion imminent, and Kessler was their ally. Lily signed, they're stronger now. The choir calls them. Evelyn's resolve hardened. The suppressant could protect Lily. The disruptor might stop the choir, and the drawing confirmed the sky voice was the signal's heart. They had to move, find more suppressant, build the disruptor, stop the next performance. But the hum roared, the walls glowing with symbols, and Varn's voice echoed from the corridor. "They're here." Evelyn grabbed Lily, running for the basement again. The fog seeping inside, the starless light blinding, the others' whispers filling her mind. She fights. She falls. But Lily's hand in hers, and the drawing's truth, drove her forward. A spark of defiance against the void. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's lungs burned as she pulled Lily through the narrow corridors of Morningside Academy. The hum a relentless assault that shook the walls and pulsed in her skull. The fog, thick with the starless light of the others, seeped through shattered windows, its tendrils curling like fingers in the dim light. It was 9:28 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was unraveling, its stone facade a thin veil over the extraterrestrial horror of Project Voiceless. Lily's hand, small but fierce, clung to hers, the girl's scars faintly glowing despite the neural suppressant's fading protection. The drawing of the sky voice, the signal disruptor schematic, and the vials of suppressant weighed heavy in Evelyn's coat, alongside the scattered page from Tate's files. Signal frequency log, 2024. Source, extraterrestrial, confirmed by DARPA contact. Mr. Tate's screams still echoed in her mind, his body dragged into the fog by a tendril of the others. A grim confirmation that the invasion was no longer a threat. It was here. Ms. Varn's voice, sharp and closing in, "They're here," drove Evelyn toward the basement, their only refuge, where more suppressant and answers might still lie. The storage room door loomed ahead, its lock flimsy, and Evelyn shouldered it open, pulling Lily inside and barring it with a crate. The hum was deafening, the symbols etched into the walls glowing with the same sickly light as the fog. Lily's eyes were wide, her hands signing frantically. They're stronger. The sky voice is louder. Evelyn's heart ached for the girl, whose resistance was a beacon in the chaos. She whispered, "We'll stop them, Lily. The suppressant works, and the disruptor can end this." But doubt gnawed at her. Tate's terror, Kessler's betrayal, the other's physical presence. The basement was a gamble, but the radio's signal and the monitor's images had shown the truth. The others were using the children as a bridge, and the choir's next performance would tear the veil wide open. She checked the vials, 2 left, enough for Lily and perhaps 1 other child, and gripped the schematic, its untested promise her only plan. The crate shuddered as something heavy struck the door. Varn's voice a snarl. "Harrow, you can't hide." Evelyn's pulse raced. She scanned the room, spotting a trapdoor under a pile of moldy blankets, likely a service access to the basement. She yanked it open, revealing a rusted ladder descending into darkness, the burnt wire smell of the lab rising like a warning. "Go," she urged Lily, helping the girl onto the ladder. The door splintered, Varn's boots visible through the crack, and Evelyn followed, pulling the trapdoor shut, the hum drowning out the crash above. They descended into the main lab, the generator's symbols blazing, the radio sparking with that alien signal. Clicks, whines, and a whispered she defies. The monitors in the second chamber flickered, the others formed sharper, their tendrils reaching through the void, inches from breaking through. Evelyn barred the trapdoor with a metal rod, buying time, and searched the lab for more suppressant. Lily pointed to a locked cabinet near the workbench, its surface scratched as if clawed. Evelyn's pocket knife made quick work of the lock, revealing not just vials, but a folder stamped classified. DARPA voiceless addendum. Her hand shook as she opened it, scanning pages dated 2003. Project Voiceless initiated under DARPA oversight. Implants derived from recovered non-terrestrial tech. 1983 crash site, Nevada. Purpose: establish communication with extraterrestrial intelligence. Side effects: neural degradation, mutism, synchronized behavior. Kessler's team exceeded mandate, pursuing direct interface. Signal source unlocated but sentient. The final page was a memo. Marrow objected, warned of invasion risk. Terminated 2004. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Marrow, her namesake, hadn't been a coincidence. She'd been a whistleblower, silenced for resisting Kessler's pact with the others. Lily signed, "They're coming. I hear them." Her scars pulsed brighter, the suppressant's effect nearly gone. Evelyn injected another dose, the girl's scars dimming, her breathing easing. But the trapdoor rattled, Varn's voice joined by Kessler's cold command. "Break it down." Evelyn stuffed the DARPA folder into her coat, her mind reeling. The implants were alien tech, the others a known threat, and Kessler had betrayed humanity for power. The disruptor schematic was their only hope, but building it required tools and time they didn't have. She grabbed a wrench from the workbench, ready to fight when the radio surged. Its signal shifting into a clear voice, not human, but layered like a chorus. She holds the key. She falls. The monitors blazed, the others' tendrils breaching the void, their forms solidifying. and the lab shook, crates toppling, the generator sparking. Evelyn pulled Lily toward the tunnel to the second chamber. The hum, a scream now, the walls cracking under the signal's pressure. They reached the chamber, the monitors showing the others fully formed, their tendrils lashing at the veil, inches from crossing. Evelyn's flashlight caught a small device on a shelf, a prototype, matching the disruptor schematic, its wires exposed, its core glowing faintly. She grabbed it, her hands trembling, and whispered, "This could stop them." Lily signed, "Hurry. They're here." The trapdoor above shattered, Varn and Kessler descending, their footsteps heavy, their voices distorted by the hum. Evelyn clutched the disruptor, its weight unfamiliar, and scanned the schematic. Activate at implant frequency, risk of overload. She had no idea how to use it, but it was all they had. The monitors flickered, the others' voices filling her mind. She tries. She fails. Varn's silhouette appeared at the tunnel's entrance, her eyes glowing with the starless light, her voice no longer human. "You can't stop progress, Harrow." Evelyn shoved Lily behind the cabinet, gripping the disruptor, its core pulsing in time with the hum. Kessler stepped beside Varn, his face a mask of triumph. "The others are our future," he said, his voice layered, as if the signal spoke through him. "Join us or fall." Evelyn's resolve hardened. She raised the disruptor, her finger on its trigger, and whispered to Lily, "Stay strong." The hum became a roar. The monitors exploded in sparks, and the others' tendrils breached the veil, their forms flooding the chamber, the invasion no longer a threat but a reality. Evelyn pressed the trigger, the disruptor humming to life, and the world dissolved in light and screams. Chapter 6. The Children's Rebellion. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's vision swam as the disruptor's blinding light faded. The hum of Morningside Academy reduced to a jagged pulse that throbbed in her temples. She lay sprawled on the cold floor of the basement's second chamber, Lily curled beside her, the girls breathing shallow but steady. The monitors were dark, their screens cracked. The images of the others, those fluid, eyeless entities, gone, though their presence lingered in the air like a bruise. It was 9:52 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was a battlefield, its walls scarred by the signal's fury. The signal disruptor, still clutched in Evelyn's hand, was scorched, its core dim, its single-use enough to stall the other's breach, but not to stop it. MS. Varn and Dr. Kessler had vanished in the chaos, their distorted voices, "You can't stop progress," echoing in her mind. The vials of neural suppressant, the DARPA folder, and Lily's drawing of the sky voice remained in her coat, their secrets a lifeline as the invasion loomed. Lily's scars glowed faintly, the suppressant's effect fading, but her eyes held a spark of defiance that gave Evelyn hope. The hum stuttered, but for the first time, Evelyn felt a shift. The children, led by Lily, were fighting back. She helped Lily sit up, whispering, "Are you okay?" The girl nodded, her hands signing slowly. "It's quieter." "They're angry." Her scars pulsed, but her gaze was sharp, a leader emerging from the signal shadow. Evelyn's heart swelled. Their bond, forged in fear, was now a weapon. The DARPA folder's revelation, that Project Voiceless stemmed from alien tech and Kessler's betrayal, confirmed the stakes. The others wanted Earth, and the children were their gateway. The disruptor's blast had bought time, but the choir's next performance, likely hours away, would be the final push. Evelyn pocketed the device, its wires frayed, and checked the vials. 2 left, enough to protect Lily and perhaps another child. "We need to move," she said, helping Lily to her feet. The basement was a wreck, the generator sparking, the symbols on its surface dim but alive. The trapdoor above was splintered, Varn and Kessler likely regrouping, and Evelyn knew they had to reach the children's quarters to rally Lily's rebellion. They climbed the ladder, emerging in the storage room, the fog outside pulsing with that starless light. Tendrils moving within, closer now. The corridors were eerily silent, the portraits' eyes dark, as if the school itself were stunned by the disruptor's pulse. Lily signed, "The others are with me." "We resist." Evelyn's breath caught. "Others," she whispered. Lily's hands moved. "Children. Some hear me. We fight the sky voice." Evelyn's hopes surged. Lily wasn't alone. She'd sparked a rebellion, subtle but growing among the implanted children. They reached the children's quarters, the door unguarded, the staff likely scattered by the disruptor's chaos. Inside, a dozen children sat on their beds, their scars glowing faintly, their eyes fixed on Lily. One boy, maybe 12, signed to her, his movements quick. "We felt it." The signal broke. Lily nodded. Signing back. "She helps us. We stopped them." Evelyn watched, awestruck, as the children moved closer, their synchronized rhythm faltering, replaced by a tentative individuality. Lily was their anchor, her resistance spreading like a virus through the signal's network. But the hum returned, sharper, and the children winced, their scars flaring. Evelyn injected Lily with another dose of suppressant, the girl's scars dimming, and handed the syringe to the boy, showing him how to use the last vial. "For the strongest," she whispered, hoping it would spread. The children's rebellion was fragile, and the others were still coming. She needed more. Answers, tools, a way to end the signal. The DARPA folder mentioned a defunct government project, and Tate's files had hinted at a broader conspiracy. If she could find more evidence, she might uncover a way to shut down the implants permanently. A scream shattered the quiet, high and guttural, coming from the corridor. Evelyn froze. Signing to Lily, "Stay here. Keep them safe." The girl nodded, her hands rallying the children, and Evelyn slipped out, her flashlight off, her knife ready. The scream had come from the staff wing, and as she crept closer, the hum grew erratic, the fog seeping through cracked windows, its tendrils curling like smoke. She rounded a corner and stopped, her blood running cold. "Mister." Tate's body lay crumpled against the wall, his eyes wide, his throat torn as if by claws, the satchel of files gone. But it wasn't Tate. She'd seen him dragged into the fog. This was another staff member, a woman Evelyn recognized from meals, her face frozen in terror, her uniform shredded. The fog pulsed nearby, a tendril retreating, and Evelyn realized the others were hunting, their invasion spilling into the school. She backed away, her mind racing. The staff member's death meant chaos among Kessler's ranks, a chance to search their offices for more files. She slipped into the administrative wing, the hum stuttering, the portrait's eyes glowing faintly. Kessler's office was locked, but her pocket knife pried the door open, revealing a desk cluttered with papers and a locked safe. She worked the safe's dial, her hands steady despite the hum's pressure, and it clicked open, revealing a stack of documents labeled voiceless. DARPA Termination Report, 2005. The pages detailed the project's end, funding cut after Merrow's death, implants deemed unstable, Kessler privatized operations, secured unknown funding, signal source traced to deep space anomaly, designation, Sky Voice. A final note, in Kessler's handwriting, chilled her, the others are allies. Earth is theirs. Evelyn's stomach twisted. The Sky Voice was the signal's heart, a deep space entity manipulating Kessler, and the children's rebellion was the only thing slowing it. She stuffed the documents into her coat, her resolve hardening. Lily's leadership, the suppressant, the disruptor, they could fight back, but the others were already here, their tendrils killing, their light blinding. As she turned to leave, the hum surged, and a shadow moved in the fog outside, a shape, fluid and eyeless, solidifying. The window cracked, the tendril lashing toward her, and Evelyn ran, the documents heavy, the hum screaming. She rises. She falls. She reached the children's quarters, Lily's rebellion growing, but the fog was inside now, the others hunting, and the choir's final performance loomed like a death knell. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's boots skidded on the polished floor of Morningside Academy's corridor, her heart pounding as she clutched the stolen DARPA documents to her chest. The hum roared through the walls, a jagged pulse that seemed to claw at her sanity, while the fog outside pulsed with the starless light of the others. their tendrils now slithering through cracked windows, hunting. It was 10:14 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was a war zone. Its stone hall scarred by the signal's wrath and the death of the staff member, her throat torn by an alien claw, still vivid in Evelyn's mind. Lily's rebellion, a fragile spark among the implanted children, was growing in the quarters behind her, led by the girl's fierce defiance and the neural suppressant's temporary shield. The documents, labeled Voiceless. DARPA Termination Report, 2005, confirmed the horror. Project Voiceless was built on alien tech. Kessler had betrayed humanity for the others. And the Sky Voice, a deep space anomaly, was the signal's sentient heart. Evelyn's coat bulged with the suppressant vials, the disruptor schematic, and Lily's drawing. But the weight of Kessler's note, the others are allies. Earth is theirs, drove her forward. The choir's final performance was hours away, and she had to use the documents to stop it. She burst into the children's quarters, the doors slamming shut behind her, the hum stuttering as if the school itself recoiled. Lily stood at the center, surrounded by a dozen children, their scars glowing faintly, their eyes sharp with newfound will. The boy Evelyn had given the last suppressant vial to, Caleb, signed to Lily, his hands quick. More are waking. The signal's weak. Lily nodded, her braids frayed, her face pale but resolute, and signed to Evelyn. They listened to me. We pushed back. Evelyn's chest tightened with hope. The rebellion was spreading. The children's resistance disrupting the implant's hold. But the hum surged, and several children winced, their scars flaring, the suppressant's effects uneven. She knelt beside Lily, whispering, "You're amazing, but we need to end this. I found proof. Kessler's working with them." She pulled out the DARPA documents, spreading them on the floor, their pages a map to survival. The termination report detailed the project's collapse. Marrow's warnings ignored. Implants caused neural damage. DARPA cut funding. Kessler privatized, used offshore accounts, likely from the others' influence. A technical addendum listed the implant's frequency, 2.7 gigahertz, the same as the radio signal Evelyn had intercepted, and a failsafe. Signal overload can disable implants, but risks neural collapse. The disruptor schematic matched this, its prototype a crude but functional tool to flood the frequency. Evelyn's mind raced. The staff member's death meant Kessler's control was fraying, and the others were killing indiscriminately, their invasion spilling into the school. She whispered to Lily, "We can build the disruptor, overload the implants, stop the choir. But it's dangerous." Lily signed, "We're ready. They heard us. We fight." The other children nodded, their faces set, and Evelyn felt their rebellion as a tangible force, a counterpoint to the hum. A crash echoed from the corridor, glass shattering, followed by Varn's voice, distorted and layered, as if the others spoke through her. There with the girl, Evelyn's pulse spiked. She stuffed the documents into her coat, handing Lily the disruptor schematic. "Hide this," she whispered. "If I don't make it, you know what to do." Lily's eyes widened, but she nodded, tucking the paper into her sleeve. Evelyn grabbed a wrench from a nearby table, her knife lost in the chaos, and rallied the children. "Stay together. Follow Lily." She led them to a side exit, aiming for the basement lab, where tools to build the disruptor and more suppressant might remain. The fog was inside now, tendrils curling through the hall, their starless light blinding. A shape moved within, a fluid, eyeless form, solid and real, its surface rippling like liquid metal. The children gasped, but Lily signed, "Don't look. Run." They reached the storage room. The trapdoor to the basement still open, but Varn's footsteps were close, joined by a guttural hum that wasn't human. Evelyn ushered the children down the ladder, her wrench raised, the hum a scream in her ears. The lab was a wreck, the generator sparking, its symbols pulsing erratically. She searched the workbench, finding a soldering iron, wires, and a battery, enough to assemble the disruptor. Lily and Caleb helped, their hands steady despite the hum's pressure, while the other children stood guard, their scars glowing, their rebellion holding the signal at bay. Evelyn worked fast, following the schematic. The DARPA fail-safer guide, overload at 2.7 gigahertz. But the hum surged, and a monitor flickered on, showing the others, their tendrils breaching the void, their voices a chorus. She builds. She falls. The trapdoor shuddered, Varn's voice now a snarl. "You can't save them, Harrow." Evelyn's hands shook, the disruptor's core sparking as she connected the battery. Lily signed, "It's working. I feel it." Her scars dimmed, the signal weakening, but the trapdoor splintered, and Varn descended, her eyes glowing with the starless light, her movements jerky, as if possessed. Kessler followed, his face a mask of fury, his voice layered. "You're delaying the inevitable. The others are here." Evelyn raised the disruptor, its hum rising, and shouted, "Stay back." Varn lunged, her nails claw-like, but Caleb threw a crate, slowing her. The disruptor's core glowed, its frequency climbing, and the children's scars flickered, their pain easing. The hum faltered, the others' voices screaming in Evelyn's mind. She resists. She fails. Varn's attack faltered, her eyes dimming, but Kessler drew a syringe, silvery, like the suppressant, but wrong. "You forced my hand," he growled, aiming for Lily. Evelyn dove, tackling him, the disruptor clattering to the floor. The children rallied, their hands signing in unison, their rebellion a force that shook the lab. Lily grabbed the disruptor, her hand steady, and activated it, the device screaming at 2.7 gigahertz. The hum collapsed, the monitors exploding, the others' tendrils retreating in the void. Varn collapsed, her glow gone, but Kessler rose, his syringe raised, his voice a snarl. "You've only delayed them." Evelyn wrested the syringe from him, stabbing it into his arm, and he screamed, his eyes rolling back, the starless light fading. The children cheered, their scars dark, the signal broken. For now. Evelyn panted, the disruptor spent. The lab silent, but for the children's breaths. The DARPA documents, Lily's rebellion, the staff member's death. They bought time, but the others were still out there, the sky voice waiting. She hugged Lily, whispering, "You did it." The girl signed, "We did it." But the fog outside pulsed, the starless light flickering, and Evelyn knew the fight wasn't over. The choir's final performance was coming, and the others would try again. Chapter 7, The Voiceless Scream. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's hands trembled as she clutched Lily's shoulders, the girl's defiant eyes a beacon in the wreckage of Morningside Academy's basement lab. The air was thick with the acrid stench of scorched metal and burnt wiring. The signal disruptor's spent core smoldering on the floor, its brief overload having shattered the hum's relentless grip. It was 10:37 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was a fractured shell, its walls scarred by the others' wrath, the fog outside pulsing with their starless light. The children's rebellion, sparked by Lily and fueled by the neural suppressant, had wrested control from the signal, their scars dimmed, their synchronized movements broken. Dr. Kessler lay crumpled against the generator, his eyes vacant, the alien-tainted syringe Evelyn had stabbed him with draining the light from his gaze. Ms. Varn was a heap nearby, her possessed fury extinguished by the disruptor's pulse. The DARPA documents, Lily's sky voice drawing, and the suppressant vials in Evelyn's coat were their arsenal, but the victory was fleeting. The others, those fluid, eyeless entities from the void, were still out there, their invasion stalled but not stopped, and the choir's final performance loomed like a guillotine. Lily signed, "They're angry. I feel them." Her scars flickered, the suppressant's effects waning, and the other children, 12 rebels, led by Caleb, gathered close, their faces a mix of fear and resolve. Evelyn's heart ached for them, their bodies weaponized by alien implants, their mutism a cruel side effect of Project Voiceless. The DARPA files had exposed Kessler's betrayal, privatizing the project with the others' backing, aiming to open Earth to their rule, and the staff members' claw-torn death showed their impatience. Evelyn whispered, "We've hurt them, but we need to keep moving. The basement's not safe." The children nodded, their hands signing in unison. a new rhythm born of rebellion, not control. She grabbed the disruptor's remains, hoping to salvage its core, and led them toward the trapdoor. Her wrench raised, the fog's tendrils curling through the ceiling cracks, their starless light probing. But as they climbed, a new sound pierced the silence, a low, guttural wail. Not human, but layered, like the others' voices on a radio. The walls shook, the symbols etched into the stone flaring, and the children winced, their scars glowing brighter, as if the signal were clawing back control. Lily signed, "They're punishing us." Her face contorted, and Caleb clutched his temples, blood trickling from his nose. Evelyn's stomach twisted. The others were retaliating, using the implants to inflict pain. She injected Lily with the last suppressant vial, the girl's scars dimming. But Caleb and the others had none left. "Hold on," she urged, pulling them up the ladder into the storage room. The wail grew louder, the fog now a living mass, tendrils lashing through the windows, their surfaces rippling like the entities in the monitors. The school was locking down, its exits sealing, the hum returning with a vengeance, a scream that drove nails into her skull. They reached the corridor, the portrait's eyes blazing with the starless light, their painted mouths twisting into silent screams. The children staggered, their rebellion faltering under the signal's assault, and Evelyn's mind raced. The DARPA files had mentioned a failsafe. Signal overload risks neural collapse, and the disruptor schematic hinted at a larger device, perhaps hidden deeper in the school. She needed to find it, to end the implant's power, but the other's punishment was relentless. A door slammed ahead, and 3 staff members, faces pale, eyes glowing like Varns, blocked their path, their movements jerky, as if puppeted by the signal. "You've gone too far, Harrow." One hissed, her voice layered, not her own. Evelyn raised her wrench, shielding Lily, but the children rallied, their hands signing in defiance, their collective will pushing back the hum. The staff lunged, claws extended, and Evelyn swung, cracking one skull, but the others were faster, their strength unnatural. Caleb dove forward, tackling a staff member, and the children fought, their rebellion a chaotic force. But the signal's wail intensified, and more children fell, blood seeping from their ears. Evelyn dragged Lily back, her eyes scanning for an escape, when a side room caught her attention. A locked door marked archives. The DARPA files had mentioned Kessler's privatization, and archives might hold more on the implant's design. She pried the lock with her knife, the children covering her, and they spilled inside, barring the door as the staff pounded, their voices a chorus. She defies. She falls. The room was lined with filing cabinets, papers spilling from open drawers, and Evelyn searched frantically, finding a folder labeled Implant V3, Technical Specifications. It detailed the device's purpose, two-way neural interface for extraterrestrial communion, amplifies signal to project consciousness across dimensions. Side effects: mutism, neural scarring, potential for host subsumption. Evelyn's blood ran cold. The implants weren't just bridges. They could let the others possess the children, subsuming their minds. The folder included a blueprint for a signal amplifier, a larger device to boost the choir's power, likely stored in the school's core. If she could reverse it, overload the implants, she might save the children. But at what cost? The wail surged, the door buckling, and Lily signed. They're breaking through. Her scars glowed, the suppressant gone, and Evelyn's heart sank. She stuffed the folder into her coat, her plan forming. Find the amplifier, use the disruptor's core. End the signal. But the school was sealing, lights flickering, doors locking, the fog of prison. The staff broke through, their eyes blazing, and Evelyn fought, her wrench swinging. The children's rebellion a desperate stand as the others' voices screamed. She resists. She fails. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's wrench dripped with dark blood, the metallic tang mixing with the burnt wire stench of Morningside Academy's archive room. The hum roared through the walls, a vengeful scream that shook the filing cabinets and pulsed in her skull. As if the others, those fluid, eyeless entities from the void, were tearing at the fabric of reality. It was 10:59 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was a collapsing fortress, its corridors choked with fog and the starless light that heralded the others' invasion. Lily clung to her side, her scars glowing faintly, the neural suppressant's effects long faded. While Caleb and the other rebel children fought with desperate ferocity, their hands signing defiance against the 3 staff members, now puppets of the signal, their eyes blazing with alien light. The Implant V3, technical specifications folder, stuffed in Evelyn's code alongside the DARPA files and Lily's Sky voice drawing, revealed the implant's true purpose, not just communication, but subsumption, allowing the others to possess the children's minds. The school's lockdown was tightening, doors sealing, lights flickering, and the overseer's violent response to the children's rebellion was a death sentence unfolding. Evelyn swung her wrench, catching a staff member's jaw with a sickening crunch. But the woman barely flinched, her clawed hands slashing, her voice a layered snarl. "You can't stop the others." Caleb tackled another, his small frame fueled by rage. While Lily signed to the children, "Push back, fight the voice." Their collective will, a rebellion sparked by Lily's resistance, disrupted the hum, the staff's movements faltering as the signal wavered. But the 3rd staff member lunged, pinning a girl, Emma, barely 10, to the floor, her claws digging into the child's glowing scars. Evelyn dove, driving her wrench into the staff's temple, and the woman collapsed, her eyes dimming, the signal's grip broken. Emma sobbed, blood seeping from her scars, and Evelyn pulled her up, whispering, "You're okay. Stay with Lily." The hum surged, a punishing wail, and the children clutched their heads, their rebellion straining under the others' wrath. The archive door buckled, more footsteps echoing, reinforcements, their voices a chorus of alien intent. Evelyn's mind raced, the implant specifications burning in her memory. Two-way neural interface. Projects consciousness across dimensions, risk subsumption. The others didn't just want to communicate. They wanted to become the children, using the choir to anchor their invasion. The blueprint for the signal amplifier, a device to boost the choir's power, was their target, likely hidden in the school's core, perhaps the basement sealed chamber. If she could reverse it, overload the implants as the DARPA failsafe suggested, she might save the children, but the risk of neural collapse haunted her. She grabbed Lily, shouting, "We need the amplifier. Where's the core of the school?" Lily signed, her hands trembling below. Deeper than the lab. Locked. Evelyn's heart sank. The lockdown was sealing access, and the others were punishing resistance with lethal force. They fled the archive, the children dragging their wounded, the hum a scream that cracked the walls, symbols flaring like wounds. The corridor was a nightmare, fog swirling, tendrils of starless light lashing through shattered windows. A staff member, Mr. Graves, his face half melted into something fluid, blocked their path. His voice a gurgle. The others claim what's theirs. Evelyn swung her wrench, but Graves caught it, his strength inhuman, and threw her against the wall, her vision blurring. Caleb and Emma attacked, their hands signing in unison, their rebellion a force that staggered Graves, his form flickering as the signal glitched. Lily pulled Evelyn up, signing we're stronger together. The children's collective defiance, amplified by their bond, pushed back the hum, and Graves collapsed, his body dissolving in a fog, the others' hold weakening. They ran, the school's lockdown clamping down, metal shutters slamming over exits, the fog a living cage. Evelyn led them to the basement stairwell, the only path to the core. But the rusted door was now reinforced, a steel panel bolted shut, its surface etched with glowing symbols. The hum wailed, and the children's scars flared, blood trickling from their noses. The others' punishment relentless. Evelyn pried at the panel with her wrench, her hands slick with sweat, and found a keypad, its numbers pulsing with the starless light. The implant specifications had mentioned a code, V3 override, 1983, the year of the Nevada crash. She punched it in, her heart pounding, and the panel hissed, sliding open, revealing a deeper stairwell, its air cold and heavy with the scent of ozone and rot. They descended, the children's rebellion a flickering flame, their hands signing encouragement despite the pain. The stairwell opened into a vast chamber, its walls lined with humming panels, a massive device at the center. The signal amplifier, its core a pulsating orb of starless light. Tendrils of fog curling around it. Monitors flickered, showing the others, their forms fully solid, their voices a deafening chorus. She reaches. She falls. Evelyn's stomach twisted. The amplifier was the choir's heart, the other's anchor. She pulled out the disruptor's scorched core, hoping to jury-rig it, but the children screamed, their scars blazing. And the fog surged, tendrils lashing, one grazing Caleb's arm, leaving a burn that smelled of alien flesh. Lily signed, "They're here." And Evelyn realized the lockdown wasn't just sealing the school. It was trapping them with the others, their invasion now a siege. DR. Evelyn Harrow's fingers fumbled with the scorched core of the signal disruptor, its frayed wires sparking faintly in the oppressive glow of Morningside Academy's core chamber. The hum was a relentless assault, a voiceless scream that rattled the walls and pulsed through her bones, as if the others, those fluid, eyeless entities from the starless void, were clawing their way into reality. It was 11:22 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was a sealed tomb, its lockdown clamping down with metal shutters and glowing symbols that burned into the stone. Lily stood beside her, her scars flaring despite her defiance, leading a dozen rebel children whose rebellion had fractured the signal's grip but now strained under the other's punishment. Caleb clutched his burned arm, the tendril's touch leaving a sickly, alien scent, while Emma and the others signed encouragement, their hands trembling, their scars bleeding. The signal amplifier loomed at the chamber's center, its pulsating orb of starless light a heart for the silent choir, its tendrils of fog lashing like whips. Evelyn's coat bulged with the DARPA files, the implant specifications, and Lily's sky voice drawing, but the disruptor's core was her only weapon, and the others' voices roared in her mind. She reaches. She falls. The chamber's monitors flickered, showing the others fully formed, their tendrils breaching the void, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal, inches from crossing into the world. The hum surged, a punishing wail that drove the children to their knees, blood seeping from their ears, their rebellion faltering. Evelyn shouted, "Hold on," her voice barely audible over the scream, and knelt by the amplifier, its panels etched with the same symbols as the basement's generator. The implant specifications had revealed the device's purpose: project consciousness across dimensions, and the DARPA failsafe warned of neural collapse if overloaded. She had to reverse the amplifier's frequency, using the disruptor's core to flood the implant's 2.7 gigahertz signal. But the device was crude, its power untested. Lily signed, her hands shaking. "They're coming. I see them." Her eyes glowed faintly, the signal clawing back, and Evelyn's heart twisted. She was out of suppressant, and the children's pain was a clock ticking down. The chamber shook, cracks spiderwebbing across the walls, the fog flooding in, its tendrils solidifying, their starless light blinding. A shape emerged, a single other, its form fluid yet solid, its surface pulsing with veins of light. No eyes, but a presence that saw everything. The children screamed, their scars blazing, and Caleb swung a pipe, his rebellion fierce, but the tendril lashed, knocking him against the wall, his body crumpling. Evelyn's stomach lurched, but she forced her hands steady, wiring the disruptor's core to the amplifier's panel. Following the schematic's frantic notes, the others' voices filled her mind, a chorus of cold intent. She builds. She fails. The tendril lunged for Lily, but Emma dove, taking the hit. Her small frame burned, and still, her sacrifice buying Evelyn seconds. Lily signed, "Do it, now." Her face a mask of grief and resolve, rallying the surviving children, their hands signing in unison. Their rebellion a force that pushed back the hum. Evelyn connected the final wire, the disruptor's core glowing, its hum rising against the other's wail. The amplifier's orb pulsed erratically, the fog's tendrils recoiling, but the chamber's monitors exploded, sparks raining, and the other advanced, its form solidifying, its tendrils wrapping around the amplifier, protecting it. Evelyn shouted, "Lily, help me!" And the girl joined her, her small hands steadying the core, their bond a lifeline. The children circled them, their rebellion a shield, their scars dimming as the disruptor's frequency climbed, the hum glitching, the other's voices fracturing. She resists. The tendril lashed, grazing Evelyn's arm, its burn searing, alien, but she held fast, flipping the amplifier's override switch, its orb screaming as the 2.7 gigahertz signal flooded the chamber. The children collapsed, their scars dark, the signal's grip broken. But the other roared, its form destabilizing, its tendrils thrashing, cracking the amplifier's orb. The chamber shook, the ceiling buckling, and the fog surged, more shapes emerging. Their voices a desperate scream. She breaks. She falls. Evelyn's vision blurred, the burn spreading, but Lily's hand gripped hers, signing, "We did it." The amplifier's orb shattered, the starless light imploding, the others' forms dissolving into fog, their voices silenced. The hum stopped, the chamber still, the children gasping, their scars faded. Their rebellion victorious, for now. But the lockdown held, the shutters sealed, and Evelyn knew the others weren't gone, only pushed back. She helped Lily stand, whispering, "We're not done," and checked Caleb and Emma. Caleb alive, Emma gone, her sacrifice a weight on her soul. Footsteps echoed above, not staff, but mechanical, rhythmic, as if the school itself were mobilizing. The DARPA files had mentioned Kessler's privatization, but not his contingency, a system to seal Morningside if the others faltered. Evelyn grabbed the disruptor's core, its power spent, but its design a blueprint, and led the children toward the stairwell, the chamber's walls cracking, the fog retreating but still alive. The lockdown was a trap, the school a machine waking to crush them, and the other's silence was a pause, not a defeat. Lily signed, "They'll try again. We fight." Evelyn nodded, her burn throbbing. The children's rebellion a flame she'd protect, even as the school's core locked them in with the void's lingering whisper. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's arm throbbed where the other's tendril had burned her, the alien wound pulsing in time with her racing heart as she led Lily and the surviving rebel children through the shattered core chamber of Morningside Academy. The air was heavy with the stench of scorched metal and ozone. The signal amplifier's orb a broken husk, its starless light extinguished by the disruptor's desperate overload. It was 11:41 p.m. on her fourth day, and the school was a sealed crypt, its lockdown clamping down with mechanical precision. Metal shutters grinding over exits, corridors narrowing as walls shifted. The hum replaced by a low, grinding rumble, as if Morningside itself were a waking beast. The children's rebellion, led by Lily's fierce defiance, had pushed back the others, their fluid, eyeless forms dissolving into the fog. But the victory was fragile. Caleb, bloodied but alive, supported a limping boy, while the others, 9 now, after Emma's sacrifice, clutched each other, their scars dark, the implant silenced but not destroyed. The DARPA files, implant specifications, and Lily's sky voice drawing weighed heavy in Evelyn's coat. But the spent disruptor core in her hand was useless, its power drained. The others were gone, for now. But the school's lockdown was a new predator, and Evelyn knew they were trapped in its jaws. Lily signed, her hands trembling, its moving. The school, her eyes, sharp despite the pain, darted to the chamber's walls, where the glowing symbols flickered erratically, as if the signal's defeat had triggered a deeper mechanism. Evelyn nodded, her throat tight. The DARPA files had hinted at Kessler's contingency, a privatized system to seal Morningside if the others faltered, and the grinding rumble confirmed it. The school was a machine, designed to protect the Sky Voices agenda, even without its masters. The chamber's monitors were dead, their images of the void erased, but the fog outside still pulsed faintly, a reminder that the others were waiting. Evelyn's burn ached, its alien heat spreading, and she whispered, "We need to get out, find a way to the surface." The core chamber was deep, its stairwell their only exit, but the lockdown shutters and shifting walls made escape a gamble. She rallied the children, their rebellion a flickering flame, and headed for the stairs, the rumble growing louder, the floor trembling beneath their feet. As they climbed, a sharp crack split the air, followed by a scream, raw, inhuman, and terrifyingly close. Evelyn froze, her wrench raised, the children huddling behind her. The scream came again, from Caleb, who clutched his head, his scars blazing with a sickly light, his eyes rolling back. Blood poured from his nose, and his body convulsed, the implant in his brain malfunctioning, its neural feedback loop spiraling out of control. The disruptor's overload had destabilized the implants, and Caleb was paying the price. Lily signed frantically, "He's breaking," and the other children backed away, their scars flickering, as if the signal were clawing back. Evelyn dropped to her knees beside Caleb, her hands useless without suppressant, and shouted, "Fight it, Caleb!" But the boy's scream became a wail, the air around him warping. Objects, shards of metal, dust, lifting and spinning, the implant's power bending reality like the silent choir's ritual. A tendril of fog seeped through the stairwell's cracks, drawn to the outburst, its starless light pulsing hungrily. Evelyn's heart pounded, the implant specifications flashing in her mind. Neural feedback loops, risk of subsumption. Caleb's implant was overloading, amplifying the other's residual signal, threatening to pull them back. She grabbed Lily, whispering, "Sign to him, reach him." Lily's hands moved, signing, "Caleb, hear us. You're stronger." The other children joined, their hands a chorus of rebellion, their collective will a force that had defied the others before. Caleb's wail faltered, his scars dimming, but the fog's tendril lashed, grazing his leg, leaving a burn like Evelyn's. He collapsed, gasping, his eyes clearing, the outburst subsiding, but the stairwell shook, the lockdown's mechanism grinding louder. Shutters slamming above. Evelyn helped Caleb up, his body trembling, and whispered, "You're okay. We're together." But the fog's presence meant the others were still linked. Their invasion paused, but not ended, and Caleb's malfunction was a warning. The implants were volatile, and time was running out. They pressed upward, the stairwell narrowing, the walls closing like a vice, the symbols pulsing erratically, as if the school were fighting to keep them. The rumble became a roar, and a shutter slammed ahead, blocking the basement door. Evelyn pounded it, her wrench useless against the steel, and the children's faces fell, their rebellion tested by the lockdown's trap. The implant specifications had mentioned AV3 override, 1983, and she searched the shutter, finding a keypad, its numbers glowing with the starless light. She punched in the code, her hands slick with sweat, and the shutter groaned, inching open, revealing the basement lab, its generators sparking, its symbols dark. But the fog was inside, tendrils curling, and a new sound echoed, mechanical clicks like gears aligning, coming from the school's core. Evelyn's stomach twisted. Morningside was resetting, preparing for the choir's final act, and the others were waiting. She led the children into the lab, barring the door, her mind racing for a plan. The implant specifications and DARPA files pointed to the amplifier's frequency, 2.7 gigahertz, as the key, and the disruptor's core, though spent, held the design for a larger overload. The lab's tools, soldering iron, wires, batteries, could rebuild it, but Caleb's outburst showed the implant's instability. And the lockdown's grip meant no easy exit. Lily signed, "We can fight. Use us." Her eyes burned with resolve, and the children nodded. Their rebellion a weapon, their collective will a shield. Evelyn knelt, spreading the specifications, and whispered, "We'll build another disruptor, hit the implants harder, but we need to reach the surface, find the main power." The rumble surged, the fog's tendrils lashing through the cracks, and a voice, not the others but the school's, cold and mechanical, echoed. "Intruders detected. Containment active." The children's scars flickered, and Evelyn realized the lockdown wasn't just trapping them, it was targeting them, and the others were its masters. Chapter 8. The Sky Opens. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's breath fogged in the frigid air of Morningside Academy's basement lab, her hands trembling as she clutched the scorched remains of the signal disruptor's core, its wires dangling like severed nerves. The school's lockdown had transformed the building into a living prison, its walls grinding with mechanical precision, the air heavy with the stench of ozone and alien rot. It was 11:58 p.m. on her fourth day, and the silence that followed Caleb's implant-induced outburst was a false reprieve, broken only by the low rumble of the school's containment system and the faint pulse of fog outside, its starless light seeping through cracks in the stone. Lily stood at her side, her scars faintly glowing, the neural suppressant long exhausted, while Caleb and the 9 remaining rebel children huddled close, their faces etched with defiance despite the blood drying on their skin. The DARPA files, implant specifications, and Lily Sky voice drawing weighed heavy in Evelyn's coat. Their truths, Kessler's betrayal, the other's invasion, the implant's subsumption risk, fueling her desperate plan to rebuild the disruptor and escape. But the others were stirring, their response to the implant's disruption rippling through the world outside, and the school's lockdown was tightening its noose. A sudden tremor shook the lab, the floor buckling, and the children gasped, clutching each other as dust rained from the ceiling. The fog outside flared, its starless light blazing through the cracks, and a low, unearthly moan filled the air, not from the school, but from the sky itself, a sound that clawed at Evelyn's mind. She rushed to a cracked window, peering through the fog, and her stomach dropped. The Vermont night was wrong. The stars were gone, replaced by a pulsing void, its edges writhing with tendrils of light that matched the others' forms on monitors. Lightning cracked, not white, but a sickly green, splitting the sky without thunder, and the ground beyond the school churned, soil heaving as if something beneath were waking. The others weren't just in the fog. They were reshaping the world, their response to the implant's disruption, a tantrum of environmental chaos. Lily signed, her hands shaking, they're angry. The Sky voice screams. Evelyn's heart pounded. The Sky voice, the signal's sentient core, was retaliating, and Morningside was ground zero. She turned back to the children, their rebellion a fragile shield against the others' wrath. "We need to move," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor. "The school's locking us in, but we can rebuild the disruptor. Hit the implants again and find a way out." The implant specifications had detailed the 2.7 gigahertz frequency, and the DARPA failsafe, signal overload risks neural collapse, offered a blueprint. The lab's tools, soldering iron, wires, a spare battery, were scattered on the workbench, and Evelyn began assembling a new disruptor, her hands guided by the schematic's frantic notes. Caleb, his arm burned by the other's tendril, signed, "Where do we go?" "The doors are sealed." Evelyn's mind raced. The school's core chamber, where the signal amplifier lay shattered, was too deep, but the main power grid, likely near the ground floor's mechanical room, could amplify the disruptor's range, disabling the implants and possibly the lockdown system. "The power room," she said. "If we overload it, we break the school's grip." The children nodded, their hands signing in unison, their rebellion a collective force. But a new sound broke their focus, a sharp, metallic clang from the corridor, followed by hurried footsteps, Not the rhythmic march of the possessed staff, but something frantic, human. Evelyn gripped her wrench, motioning the children behind the generator, and crept to the door, peering through the crack. A figure stumbled into view, Ms. Clara, a junior staff member who'd been silent in meetings. Her face pale, her uniform torn, a satchel clutched to her chest. She glanced over her shoulder, her eyes wide with terror, and Evelyn's instinct screamed. Clara was running, like Tate. And she knew something. But trust was a luxury Evelyn couldn't afford. Kessler's betrayal and Varn's possession had taught her that. She stepped out, wrench raised, and hissed, "Clara, stop." Clara froze, her satchel slipping, revealing a stack of papers stamped voiceless contingency. "Dr. Harrow," she stammered, her voice shaking. "I didn't know. They're monsters." Evelyn's grip tightened. "Know what? Talk, or I call the others." Clara's eyes darted to the fog, its tendrils curling closer, and she whispered. Kessler lied. "The others don't share power. They consume. I saw the plans, subsumption protocols, total neural takeover. I was supposed to monitor the children, but I can't. Not after Emma." Her voice broke, and Evelyn's heart twisted. Clara had seen Emma's sacrifice, and guilt was driving her to flee. "Help us," Evelyn said, lowering the wrench. "We're fighting back. The children are resisting." Clara hesitated, then nodded, handing over the satchel. "The power room's on the ground floor, but it's guarded. Kessler's alive. He's rallying the signal." Evelyn's blood ran cold. Kessler, despite the syringe's alien poison, was still a threat, and Clara's mention of guarded meant betrayal lurked. Staff loyal to Kessler, or worse, possessed by the others. She took the satchel, glancing at its contents, maps of the school's grid, override codes, and a note in Kessler's handwriting. Containment prioritizes the choir. Sacrifice the rest. The choir was the others' endgame, and the lockdown was a cull, trapping everyone else. Evelyn whispered to Lily, "We move now. Power room, then out." Lily signed, "We're ready," rallying the children, their rebellion a spark in the dark. But as they prepared, the fog surged, the sky's green lightning cracking, and the ground shook, a sinkhole opening outside, swallowing trees. The others' anomalies escalating. Clara flinched, signing, "I'll guide you, but we're running out of time." They slipped into the corridor, the walls shifting, shutters grinding, the fog's tendrils lashing, drawn by the children's scars. The hum flickered, a ghost of its former scream, but the others' presence was a weight, their voices whispering. She plans. She falls. Evelyn's burn ached, its alien heat spreading, and she wondered if Clara's help was a trap, another betrayal in a school built on lies. The power room was their only hope, but the sky was opening. The others were waking, and Morningside's lockdown was a noose tightening around their rebellion. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's boots slipped on the fog-slick floor of Morningside Academy's corridor. Her wrench gripped tightly as she led Lily, Caleb, and the 9 remaining rebel children toward the ground floor's power room. The school's lockdown was a suffocating vice, its walls grinding with mechanical intent, the air thick with the alien rot of the others' presence. It was 12:14 a.m. on her 5th day, and the Vermont night outside was a nightmare canvas, green lightning splitting a starless void, sinkholes swallowing the earth, the fog pulsing with tendrils of starless light that lashed like whips. The others, those fluid, eyeless entities, were reshaping reality, their fury at the children's rebellion and the disruptors' overload shaking the world. Ms. Clara, the fleeing staff member, walked uneasily at Evelyn's side, her satchel of voiceless contingency, papers of fragile alliance, her claim of defection shadowed by the specter of betrayal. The DARPA files, implant specifications, and Lily Sky voice drawing weighed heavy in Evelyn's coat, but the jury-rigged disruptor, rebuilt with scavenged wires and a battery, was her only weapon, its untested core humming faintly. Lily signed, her scars flickering, they're closer. The Sky voice screams. Evelyn's heart pounded. The power room was their last hope to overload the implants and break the lockdown. But Clara's loyalty was a gamble, and the others were no longer waiting. The corridor twisted, walls shifting as if alive, shutters slamming, the symbols etched into the stone pulsing erratically, their glow dimming under the children's rebellion. Caleb, his burned arm trembling, signed the air's wrong. It's heavy. Evelyn nodded, feeling it too, a pressure. Like the atmosphere itself was thickening, the others' anomalies warping physics. A sudden gust tore through a shattered window, not wind but a howl, carrying flecks of ash that burned where they touched skin. The children flinched, their scars flaring, and Evelyn shielded Lily, her own alien burn throbbing, its heat spreading like a warning. Clara whispered, "The power room's near the dining hall, but Kessler's there. He's changed." Her eyes darted to the fog, where tendrils coiled and Evelyn's stomach twisted. Kisla, revived from the alien syringe's poison, was no longer human, and Clara's fear suggested a deeper betrayal. Her help could be a lure, leading them to a trap. They rounded a corner, the dining hall's doors looming, but a figure blocked their path. Mr. Graves, the staff member whose face had half melted into something fluid, now fully possessed. His eyes blazing with starless light, his limbs elongated, jerking like a marionette. "You were warned, Harrow," he snarled, his voice a layered chorus, the others speaking through him. Evelyn raised a disruptor, its hum weak, and shouted, "Stay back." But Clara screamed, "No, don't," and lunged, not at Graves but at Evelyn, her satchel dropping, revealing a syringe glowing with the same alien silver Kessler had wielded. Betrayal confirmed, Evelyn dodged, swinging her wrench, catching Clara's shoulder with a crack. Clara staggered, her face twisting, not with pain, but with the other's glow, her defection a lie to deliver them to Kessler. The children rallied, their hands signing in unison, their rebellion a force that staggered Graves, his form flickering, but Clara recovered, her syringe raised, aiming for Lily. Evelyn tackled Clara, the syringe skittering across the floor, and shouted, "Lily, run!" The girls signed, "We fight," leading the children against Graves, their collective will disrupting the hum, his tendrils recoiling. Caleb grabbed the syringe, smashing it, its liquid hissing on the stone, and Evelyn pinned Clara, her wrench at the woman's throat. "Why?" she hissed. Clara's eyes glowed, her voice layered. "The others are inevitable. Kiss la sauce." "I serve." Evelyn struck, knocking her out, but Graves lunged, his claws grazing Caleb's leg, the boy screaming. The fog surged, tendrils flooding the corridor, and the power room was their only chance. Evelyn dragged Clara's satchel, its maps and codes vital, and led the children through the dining hall, the chandeliers swaying, their crystals shattering in the heavy air. The power room's door was reinforced, a keypad glowing with the V3 override, 1983. She punched it in, the door hissing open, revealing a humming grid of panels, cables pulsing with starless light, the school's heart. But Kessler stood inside, his face warped, his skin rippling like the others, his eyes blazing. "You're too late, Harrow," he growled, his voice a chorus. "The choir sings soon." The disruptor's core sparked, its frequency climbing, and Evelyn shouted, "Lily, help me." The girl joined her, wiring the device to the grid, the children's rebellion shielding them, their scars dimming as the hum glitched. The fog's tendrils lashed, the sky screaming, and Kessler advanced, his claws extending, the other's power surging through him, betrayal and invasion one. "DR." Evelyn Harrow's hands shook as she wired the makeshift disruptor to the humming grid of Morningside Academy's power room, its cables pulsing with the starless light of the others. The air was a furnace of alien rot and ozone, the school's lockdown sealing them in a mechanical tomb, its walls grinding as if to crush their rebellion. It was 12:29 a.m. on her fifth day, and the Vermont night outside was a fractured void, green lightning splitting a starless sky, sinkholes devouring the earth, fog tendrils lashing with sentient fury. Lily stood beside her, her small hands steady despite the glowing scars on her neck, guiding wires with a precision born of desperation. Caleb bloodied from Mr. Graves' claws, and the 9 remaining rebel children formed a protective circle, their hands signing in unison, their rebellion a force that held the others at bay. Dr. Kessler loomed before them, his face a rippling mask of alien flesh, his eyes blazing with the Sky Voice's power, his voice a layered chorus. The choir sings Harrow. The others claim their due. The DARPA files, implant specifications, and Lily's Sky Voice drawing weighed heavy in Evelyn's coat, but the disruptor, rebuilt from the lab scraps, was their last hope to overload the implants too. 7 gigahertz frequency and break the school's grip. The fog surged, tendrils solidifying, and the sky screamed. The others' invasion no longer a threat, but a reality unfolding. The power room shook, panels sparking, the grid's cables writhing like veins under the others' influence. Evelyn's alien burn throbbed, its heat spreading, a reminder of the tendrils' touch. And her vision blurred as the others' voices roared in her mind. She resists. She falls. Lily signed, "They're here. We fight." Her scars blazing, the suppressant gone. But her rebellion stronger than the signal. The children's hands moved, not in the choir's synchronized ritual, but in a new pattern, chaotic yet unified. Their implants, designed to serve the others, now weapons of defiance. Caleb, his leg bleeding, signed, "We feel them." We push back. The air warped, the fog's tendrils recoiling, and Kessler staggered, his alien form flickering, the Sky Voice's grip weakening under the children's collective will. Evelyn's heart surged. The implants, meant to subsume, could be turned against the others. Their neural feedback loops, a double-edged sword. She connected the disruptor's core, its hum rising, the grid's cables glowing as the 2.7 gigahertz frequency climbed. The implant specifications had warned of neural collapse, but the children's rebellion was rewriting the rules, their minds linked not to the others, but to each other. Lily signed now, and the children focused, their scars blazing, their hands signing a single command: stop. The room erupted in light, the grid screaming, the others' tendrils thrashing, their forms fluid, eyeless, solid, emerging from the fog, clawing at the walls. Kessler lunged, his claws slashing, but Caleb and 2 others tackled him, their implants surging, their scars pulsing with a light that wasn't the others'. It was theirs, human, defiant. Kessler's form destabilized, his voice fracturing. "You can't," and he collapsed. His alien flesh dissolving into fog, the Sky Voice silenced. The disruptor's core sparked, its frequency peaking, and the grid's cables burned, the starless light imploding. The children screamed, their scars dark, the implants overloaded, their mutism a scar, but their minds free. The fog retreated, the sky's green lightning fading, the sinkholes stilling, but the school's lockdown held. Shutters grinding, the walls closing in. Evelyn grabbed Lily, shouting, "We need to get out." The power room's door was sealed, but Clara's stolen satchel held override codes. And Evelyn punched 1983 into the keypad, the door hissing open. The corridor was a war zone, fog swirling, symbols fading, the other's presence a fading echo. The children ran, their rebellion aflame. But the sky outside pulsed, a single starless light lingering, watching. They reached the main hall, its chandeliers shattered, the cracked floor a map of their fight. An exit loomed, its shutter half open, the override code working, but a shadow moved. Ms. Varn, revive, her eyes glowing, her voice a snarl. "You've delayed them, not stopped them." She lunged, her claws slashing. But Lily signed together, and the children's hands moved, their implants' residual power a final burst, staggering Varn, her form collapsing into fog. Evelyn pushed the shutter, the night air cold. The sky clearing, the others' anomalies fading. They stumbled outside, the school's rumble slowing, its lockdown broken. but the starless light flickered, a promise of return. Evelyn hugged Lily, whispering, "We made it." The girl signed for now. The others were gone, but their shadow lingered, and the children's scars were a reminder. The fight wasn't over. Chapter 9. The silence breaks. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's lungs burned as she stumbled across the frostbitten fields outside Morningside Academy. The cold Vermont air, a sharp contrast to the suffocating heat of the school's collapsing core. Lily's hand clung to hers, the girl's scars dark, but her eyes fierce, a testament to the rebellion that had shattered the other's grip. It was 12:47 a.m. on her 5th day, and the night sky was fractured, its starless void retreating, the green lightning gone. The sinkholes still, but a single pulsing light lingered, watching from the heavens. The sky voiced the extraterrestrial heart of the signal, weakened but not destroyed. Caleb and the 9 surviving children followed, their breaths fogging, their bodies scarred by the implant's overload, but their minds free. Their rebellion a fragile victory against the others, those fluid, eyeless entities whose invasion had nearly consumed them. The school loomed behind, its shutters frozen, its walls silent. The lockdown broken by the disruptor's final pulse. Evelyn's coat bulged with the DARPA files, implant specifications, and Lily's sky voice drawing, their truths a heavy burden. But the spent disruptor was gone, its core burned out in the power room. The others were pushed back, but their whisper lingered in her mind. She wins. She waits. The field stretched toward a distant road, the fog thinning, its tendrils dissolved, but the air was heavy, the ground trembling faintly, as if the others' anomalies had left scars on the earth. Lily signed, "They're not gone. I feel them." Her hands trembled, the implant silent, but their neural damage permanent, her mutism a lifelong mark. Evelyn's heart ached, her own alien burn pulsing, a reminder of the tendril's touch. "We stopped the choir," she whispered, "but we need to keep moving. Get you all somewhere safe." The DARPA files had exposed Project Voiceless origins. Alien tech from a 1983 crash, Kessler's betrayal, the Sky Voice's sentient agenda, and the children's rebellion had broken its immediate hold. But the others were vast, their deep space origin a mystery that lingered like the starless light above. The road promised help, authorities exposure, but Evelyn's trust was shattered, and the files' mention of DARPA's complicity warned of deeper conspiracies. A low hum broke the silence, not the schools, but something new, emanating from the sky. The children froze, their scars flickering, and Caleb signed, "It's them," calling. Evelyn's stomach twisted, her eyes locked on the pulsing light. Now brighter, its rhythm a heartbeat. The others were rallying, their influence not in the implants, but in the world itself, the signal's residue a latent threat. She pulled the files from her coat, scanning the implant specifications for answers. A final note, in Dr. Marrow's handwriting, caught her eye. Signal persists in neural pathways post-overload. Only collective resistance prevents reactivation. The children's rebellion, their unified will, had saved them, but the sky voice could return, seeking new conduits. Evelyn whispered, "Stay together. Your strength stopped them before." Lily nodded, signing, "We won't let them back." The children's hands moved, a silent pact, their scars a badge of survival. They reached the road, a deserted stretch of asphalt, the school a dark silhouette against the clearing sky. Evelyn's plan was clear: find a town, expose Kessler's betrayal, protect the children. But the hum grew louder, the starless light pulsing, and the ground shook, a final anomaly rippling through the earth. The other's voice filled her mind, not a chorus but a single, cold whisper. "We see. We wait." The children clutched each other, their scars steady, their rebellion holding. But a figure emerged from the shadows, a man in a black suit, not Kessler or staff, his face unreadable, his presence official. "Dr. Harrow," he said, his voice clipped, "you've caused quite a mess." Evelyn's grip tightened on Lily, the DARPA file's mention of a contact flashing in her mind. "Who are you?" she demanded, her wrench raised. He smiled, thin and cold. Someone who cleans up. Hand over the files, and the children come with us. Evelyn's blood ran cold. DARPA, or worse, had tracked them, their complicity a shadow as vast as the others. The children signed no, their rebellion a wall, and Lily's hand squeezed hers, signing, "We fight." Evelyn backed away, the files her leverage, the children her purpose. "You'll have to kill us," she said, her voice steady. The man's smile faded, but before he could act, the hum spiked, the starless light flaring, and the ground cracked, a tendril of fog lashing, not at them but at the man. His scream cut off as it dragged him into the void. The others weren't done, their influence chaotic, unpredictable. Evelyn ran, the children following, the road stretching into darkness. The sky pulsing, the others watching, waiting. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's boots pounded the frost-crusted asphalt. The distant lights of a Vermont town flickering like a promise of salvation as she led Lily and the 9 surviving children away from Morningside Academy's collapsing shadow. The starless light in the sky pulsed faintly, a lingering eye of the others, those fluid, eyeless entities whose invasion had been thwarted by the children's rebellion and the disruptor's final overload. It was 1:03 a.m. on her 5th day, and the air was brittle. The ground still trembling from the others' fading anomalies, sinkholes, green lightning, fog tendrils that had dissolved but left a residue of alien dread. Lily's hand was warm in hers. The girl's scars dark, her mutism a permanent scar of the implant's neural damage, but her eyes burned with a defiance that had rallied the children against the sky voice. Caleb limped beside them, his burned arm and leg bandaged with torn cloth, while the others clung together, their rebellion a bond forged in blood and will. Evelyn's coat sagged with the DARPA files, implant specifications, and Lily's sky voice drawing, their truths a weapon against the conspiracy that birthed Project Voiceless. The man in the black suit, DARPA's cleaner, swallowed by the other's tendril, confirmed a deeper mystery, one Evelyn couldn't unravel alone, but the other's whisper lingered in her mind. We see. We wait. The town's lights grew closer. A gas station's neon sign cutting through the dawn's gray haze, and Evelyn's plan solidified. Find a phone, call the authorities, expose Kessler's betrayal and DARPA's complicity. Protect the children. But the hum, faint now, buzzed in her ears, and the starless light pulsed. A reminder that the sky voice wasn't gone, only dormant. The DARPA file's final note. Signal persists in neural pathways. Warned that the implants, though disabled, could reactivate, and the children's rebellion was their only shield. Lily signed, "We're free," but they're watching. Her hands were steady, her leadership a beacon, and Evelyn nodded, whispering, "You're right. We stay together no matter what." The children's hands moved, signing agreement. Their scars a testament to their survival, their silence no longer a cage, but a choice. They reached the gas station, its clerk startled but kind, offering a phone and blankets. Evelyn called a trusted contact, a journalist friend in Boston, unaffiliated with DARPA's reach, and relayed the basics. Morningside's experiments, the others' invasion, the children's escape. The files would be her evidence, their publication a blow to the conspiracy, but she withheld the sky voice's full truth, fearing panic or disbelief. The children huddled in the station's diner, sipping hot chocolate, their faces softening, but Caleb signed, "What now?" "They'll come for us." Evelyn's burn ached, its alien heat a constant reminder, and she answered, "We hide, we fight. We tell the world, you're not alone." The journalist promised a team by dawn, and Evelyn felt a flicker of hope, but the starless light outside pulsed, and a new sound, a faint, rhythmic click, like the radio's signal, came from the diner's old jukebox, unplugged yet alive. Evelyn froze, her hand on the files, as the jukebox crackled, a voice, not human, but layered, like the others, whispering, "We remain." The children's scars flickered, their hands signing in unison, "They're here." But Lily stood, her gaze fierce, and signed, "We're stronger." The jukebox fell silent, the starless light dimming, and Evelyn realized the twist. The others hadn't invaded through the choir alone. They'd seeded the world, their signal embedded in technology. In minds, waiting for a new spark. Morningside was one node, DARPA one player, but the Sky Voice's reach was vast, its mystery unresolved. The Children's Rebellion had won a battle, not the war. And Evelyn's burn, her connection to the others, hinted at a role she didn't yet understand. She hugged Lily, whispering, "We'll keep fighting," and the girl signed always. The diner's clock ticked toward dawn. The children safe for now, their outcomes uncertain but hopeful. New homes, new lives, their rebellion a secret strength. Evelyn would guard the files, expose the truth, but the Sky Voice's whisper and the jukebox's click left an open question. Where else were the others hiding, and who else served them? The starless light faded, but its shadow lingered, a mystery for another fight. Hey, horror fans, it's Eli Nightfall, and that's the chilling end of The Silent Children. Did the others scare you as much as they did me? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the Sky Voice is planning next? Like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more spine-tingling stories every week on the Eli Nightfall channel. Share this with your friends, and let's unravel the mystery together. Where are the others hiding in our world? Stay creepy, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.